Donald
Oh my
Trump is
God.
a butthole.
Insane.
I am going to be wearing my blanket cloak for the duration of this, but I'm not going to tell you where I bought it from because they're not a sponsor. So y'all, if they want to sponsor me, I'll promote it or at least become a fucking. But these are so comfy. They got this like nice soft lining.
It looks really comfy. It looks really nice.
They're really wonderful. I got my girlfriend one for her birthday, which is Monday.
Ooh, that's exciting.
Yeah. I gave her the present early because there were other presents. I'm the present,
Oh.
people. Don't you believe it? Don't you believe it?
Oh my God.
Another day that I will be blamed for the weird coincidence that it seems to be when I'm on shows, the shows start late, and I will take the blame.
I will say that was primarily my fault because I logged on and for some reason my camera wasn't working. I don't know.
It do be
But
happening though.
Normally I'm pretty like I rarely have tech issues, so when they happen it's like kind of weird, but
yeah.
Whatever.
I don't know if anyone's going to call today, but we just kind of felt like obviously today it's the 4th of July. People are pretending America's good. And so we thought we'd open up the lines and let people call us and tell us why they think America is so good on the 4th of July. Because I would go so far as to say not only has Trump not made America great again, arguably America was never great. And right now we're actually further from great than we've been in a little while, as we are not only supporting genocides, but leading to the overall, we're starting the foreign genocides already bad. And now we're starting to work towards some local ones. The Republicans are just blatantly out here calling for the deaths. They seem absolutely salivating at the possibility that some brown people might get eaten by alligators. It must be tough being a Republican and keeping track of all the things that turn you on, all the weird things that make you horny. But then I guess it's mostly just dead brown and poor people. And so maybe it's not that hard. It's just categorically, is it one of those things? Okay, I'm ready to smash.
Yeah. Well, what's also I don't need to tell this audience this, but like what I think people are really missing who are choosing to be really ignorant about the ICE situation and they're like, well, they're illegals, blah, 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 blah. There's no due process for these people, so we don't know that. So like my brother, we were talking, he was at my house earlier today, and he like gets mistaken for being mistaken for being Middle Eastern all the time. And we're kind of worried. We're like, you live in an area that apparently is a sanctuary city, and so ICE will come through, and we are legitimately worried because we saw someone in California, they took his real ID, and just like, now he just doesn't have an ID, so the next time somebody stops him, he's not going to have an ID to give them, and so they're going to say, like, where's your identification, and he's not going to have anything. And so now, it's like, these are not people who are getting due process, which means everyone is at risk if you are not a visibly white presenting person.
Yeah. I mean, it is funny to hear them be like, illegals don't deserve due process. Okay, great. Let's first of all ignore the fact that you just calling a category of humans who at best have committed a civil violation, calling them illegals and trying to purposefully reduce and dehumanize them. Passing along that as though it's not important, even though it is. How do you establish they're illegal if not by due process? Like literally it's sort of self-defeating. Don't give them due process. Okay, well then how do we establish who doesn't get due process? And that's the whole point of due process, is that it is either present for everyone or in essence it is present for no one, because if you are then just designated as illegal, apparently you deserve no due process, but you can't confidently say that anybody's illegal about anything without the due process. I may end up in an Ecuadorian jail one day if somebody's just like, I don't know, that's a pretty brown beard he has. Right. We're gonna have to deport his beard. And I'm referring to the thing on my face, not the woman I date, so people don't figure out I'm gay. It's
Oh my gosh.
it is just it's constantly growing and growing and growing. Also, this weird thing where like they can, over the course of, how long did it take them to erect alligator Alcatraz? Well, let me pull that up. I need to know.
I think it was under a week.
Right. I feel like they said it was like 4 days. How long did it take to erect giggity alligator Alcatraz? And then when we're talking about, like, people be like, oh, you know, we're going to be doing all of these things for these people, but we're not going to be helping out all the veterans, even though the veterans are getting nothing. And so they're like, first of all, you don't have to say we need to help veterans at the cost of not helping other people. We should help veterans. We should help people who got fucked by their government and are now ill or whatever they're going through. We should definitely help Americans also. But it's almost like, for that to be a point, you really have to be saying you don't think we should be helping either of them. Like, and by the way, that is what the Republicans would do. If, as Republicans are taking away the aid for the quote unquote illegals and the immigrants who are here, they aren't taking those dollars and going, all right, now let's give those to the veterans. In fact, it's weirdly the Republicans who are always bringing this up, and yet go back through time and look at, for the last several decades, which party has voted against expanding veteran benefits. In the first term, veterans lost benefits under Donald Trump, and more of that's going to happen as they are limiting even more who's going to get Medicaid and all that kind of shit. Let's see, 8 days. It took 8 days for them to erect alligator Alcatraz. But remind me why we can't help homeless people. You can get a thing that can house up to 5,000 detainees. It's going to cost you $500 million a year. Someone did the math, and it's something like $250 per day to house a single immigrant in one of these beds. So like, more than for $250 a day, if you're off season, you can book a 4-star hotel for less than $250 a day. It's only like if there's a big event going on that it costs more than that. Like,
I would like to know how there is any excuse for not having effective disaster relief protocols. Like, being able to house people who are displaced because of a natural disaster should be relatively easy to do when I see what we've created so quickly.
Well, I mean, obviously we could do that as long as whoever it is consents to, like, it doesn't have to be alligators next time, but if they could sleep surrounded by snakes, we'll take care of them.
Right.
Venomous snakes. Don't you forget. Was that a puppy?
Right. Yeah.
I hear little puppers going.
Is my mute button working? Like, if I mute myself, do you hear them?
Yeah. Oh, no, I don't hear them when you mute yourself. But we love a puppy, a vocal puppy, a new host. Dexter has been getting used to a cat in the house. He's actually been so sweet about it. My dog Dexter, he like loves, but the cat is a fucking huge dick. And
cats they rule the fucking house.
He's also, like, for a cat, he's not very good at being a cat, and is part of the reason why I'm going on this rant, because my girlfriend is in the other room watching, and it's her cat, and it's going to bug her because she thinks her cat is the best cat of all time. When this cat, like, I'll like send her videos of cats being like nice and cuddly and people grabbing and like spooning the cat. If you try to cuddle this cat, he will try to claw your face off. He's like, at most, he might come and lay in her lap sometimes when he's watching TV. But even at night, when it comes time to sleep, he's like, I might try and suck some heat from you by laying near your legs, but we're not going to, like, cuddle. He's just a dick.
It's very much on their terms.
Yeah. And he took a swipe at Dexter yesterday. I was like, Dexter, if you need to eat him, you go ahead. You just... When I first moved to LA, my roommate had a cat that swiped at my fucking eyeball. My God.
And got my eyeball. And so it bled like onto my cheek, and my eyeball was all red. I had to get a tetanus shot. I want to see if I could find a picture, and like, I'll hold it up to the screen, but if you have a weak stomach, maybe don't look at it. It's not that bad, but it's kind of gross. But it was nasty. And I hated it so much and I wish it didn't happen, but it did. And then I looked like a zombie for like, oh my God.
Oh yeah, they got you.
It got me
They
good.
got you.
Wait, I like move I don't know if you can really, it's like getting all weird, but yeah, it
You know
was
what I
really
got in
gross.
my eye the other day? Don't go where you think. I know what you. No, not that. You know
Like,
what I got in my eye? Oh, boo.
ugh, it was really bad.
You know what I got in my eye the other day? Uh,
What?
It's not. No, it's but I did find out recently that not recently, but a little while back that what you were just thinking, some people's eyes cannot handle that stuff. If it gets a little in the eye, apparently it can be a huge irritant. What you're thinking of, but no.
Yeah.
I thought I could hear that my pressure cooker was maybe slowly releasing steam. And I did like the dumb thing you see in cartoons where someone looks down the barrel to check if it's loaded.
Mm.
I put my head right over it and I just kind of touched the little knob and it spritzed a little steam right into one of my eyes. But it was quick enough that I didn't get. Yeah, I know. I was like freaking out about it. It's like, what if it's in there just burning it away? But I kept very cool. Didn't even tell my girlfriend it happened. I was like, I'll wait until it's a problem.
You were big and strong about it, actually.
I was such a big and strong and brave guy. I was just a big,
you were really
strong,
brave.
Anyway,
yeah.
Who in the chat will call in to defend MAGA? We
Oh
already
my
know
God.
that. I will say we've got a lot of unreasonable people in the chat. So surely some of you are MAGA people, considering 50% of people, 51% are choosing cats in the poll in the chat. 102 of you have voted, and mostly the cat people are winning. They got 51%, dogs with 35, and no pets with 13%.
Wait, it's crazy to choose cats after I just showed you guys my eye. That was crazy. I literally pet the cat and it swiped at my eye.
The unconditional love of a dog
to
me is just like so superior.
It's so everything.
I like cats, by the way. One of the annoying.
Me too.
Okay, and actually, here's one of the things I don't like. Have you ever noticed that if you talk about I prefer dogs over cats, a cat person assumes that they actually hear that as I hate cats, only dogs. Whereas I can respect a person who's like, I like cats, but I really like dogs too. But they don't exist as much. If you're a cat person, you do have to hate dogs. If you're a dog person, you're fine liking cats, and yet a cat person will just project that onto you, that it must be the case. I do think it's funny that Luthien, the producer, who is my girlfriend, is not actually like jumping in and being like, because the audience wouldn't hear. But I'm surprised she hasn't tried to say anything to. I thought you were gonna say. I thought she'd be like, he is a liar. Little boy is the sweetest little cat. Blah 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 blah. He's not. He's an awful cat. Mm-mm. So right now she's arguing that actually he does cuddle, and this is a person who clearly has not had an actual cuddly cat, because he does not. He lays next to her with maybe some small part and does not, just absorbs heat. It's never the rubby kind, the spoony kind. He's just like, what I would like is your heat. I'm going to steal it from you, and that you're here. And the reason why I know this is if she's not here and he will lay in the exact same spot on the bed, not against me. And just what he likes is that the bed has a heater built into it. So he likes the heated bed. That's what he's there for.
Yeah.
But he likes her side because he knows I will force him to spoon me. I will force him to cuddle. So he's like, I'm not gonna get too close.
Yes.
Oh, he thinks
I want. Yes, please send me pictures. I will literally always take a picture of the cat.
You can't talk this much though, by the way, because the audience can't hear you. So you're saying too much and they're just like, what am I missing? She thinks that one cute photo is going to win over Dexter being like, any time of any day, I will love you or protect you, whatever you need.
Here's the thing. I think that I have something in common with cat owners that have like this feeling about their cats, because I have a Chihuahua, which is like, I have to defend her existence for my fucking life every moment that she's born, because she's very sweet to me and she's like very nice to me and my mom, but she's not very nice to anyone else. So I'm like, she is a good dog when she wants to be.
That's fine. And I'm sure she would warm up to others, but I'm just like, Dexter's half Chihuahua, half Husky. It's crazy. We don't need to talk about it. But that's what Dexter is. And Dexter is so loving and warm and wonderful. And if somebody came into the house and tried to murder me, first of all, he would definitely, at first he might think we were playing and try to play, but once he realized what's happening, he would definitely like try to help. And then if they stole him, he would hate them. He'd be depressed. He would miss me a ton. Da, 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 da. If anybody came in, murdered, tortured, killed the two of us in front of the cat, took the cat would be nervous for a day or two, but as long as they fed him 10% more than we feed him, he'd be like, you know what? Kind of fuck those
more.
guys. I am living so luxurious. If they free fed him instead of we have to control, little boy eats like, my dog eats the way cats are. My dog could free feed. I generally put food in the bowl from each day, but he often leaves it there. He gets excited by the gesture. By the way, people, this is Cus I Wanna. If we don't get a MAGA call in, or we've got a call, we'll talk to somebody in a second, but it's not an argumentative one. We're just going to talk about whatever the fuck we want for the whole show. So this is kind of like if you have nothing else to do for the holiday, well, here you are. Here we are again on our own, and this is what we're going to be doing. The dog could literally, he gets so excited by, if I pour him water, he starts spinning in a circle and he's so excited and he looks at you loving and he's like, oh my God, you're doing a kindness for me. This is so wonderful. Yesterday, I got these new toy things for the cat and the cat did not give a fuck. The cat like played with them and I was like playing with them and setting it up for it. And then he was like, okay, cool. But still, no, the only time I will give you affection is if I'm hungry. And if you feed me, the affection immediately stops. That is, little boy is a little animal. He's a little pet food con artist. And that's it.
They all are.
Well, he doesn't.
No, I'm sure he's a very sweet boy. You have to give him some time.
It's been a month.
That's not that long.
Yes, it is. In cat years, that's over a year.
It's not that long. You just have to give them time.
That's a year. That's more than enough time. That's more than enough. He's so mean to the dog, and the dog's so nice to him. Just wants his love. Come on, dog people. Why are you letting cat people win here? Get in the live chat and vote. 240 people have voted so far, and it's 50% cat, 39% dog, 11% no pets. I will say,
when he's all stretched out with his arms out,
I actually don't argue with the no pets
sleeps
people.
Like
a baby. He also sometimes sits in this like really undignified way with his legs spread open, and he's like sat on his butt with his stomach out, like he's like, "Give me Cheetos." He that's pretty funny and cute. I find that it at least tickles me when he sits that way. I assume it's because he's like cleaning his upper legs or something, but yeah. And he loves to show us his empty ball sack. He's literally just like, "Did you want to see my empty scrotum? Here you go. Have a look at it." Because yeah, with dogs, you kind of don't even remember they had one. Cats, his is like darker than the rest, so it almost looks like a dark peach just under his butthole, which he's also constantly showing
us. Okay.
I know.
Astro sleeps like that. Like he sleeps on his back sometimes with his legs just like out like this. I'm like, wow, nobody has it better than you, huh?
Okay, but in the chat, you go ahead and use let's do, what emoji? Just spam an emoji in chat if you can acknowledge as a cat person that Bengal cats are dicks. Emojis in the chat if you're like, oh, I didn't know we were talking about a Bengal. I didn't know we were talking about one of those assholes.
Bengals are like really high energy, right? Like, is that like their thing?
No, I set up this thing for him last night that he would chase, and after 8 minutes, he just laid on it. He is not like, he does get the zoomies every now and then, but he just wants to food and nap and stuff. That's what it is. That's what it is. I look like a gremlin today. Okay.
I saw that. I don't think gremlin.
Come on. I know more of you know what Dick's Bengals are. We've only got a couple of emojis in there. I know that there are those of you in there who are like, oh, wait a second. Okay. It's catching up. People are realizing. Anyway, he's going to be here the next 15 years of my life. So I'll just force myself to love him. I'll just force myself.
He will love you back in some time. You just cats need a little more time, I think.
Oh, I see. Here's the thing. Here's why I don't think like your time thing is right. I think he does love me the maximum he's going to love me. I think in his way, he does love me. It's just kind of like the way an abusive boyfriend loves somebody. Kind of one of those things. I think that that's sticking around forever. I think he's like, I'd like you to do whatever I want and convenience me, and I would like to not return anything unless I happen, unless it just happens to be a weird. Maybe I got high, and then I'll be extra affectionate for you. I would like to take and give nothing. But he is at least smart. He's learning boundaries better than I was expecting him to learn. Anyway.
Okay, I'll take it.
I'm wearing a cloak.
I know, I love the cloak. Because we are going to be living in The Handmaid's Tale. We are like fully a fascist country.
Ran by cats.
Ran by cat lovers.
That's right. That's right. All I know, I don't know if he loves cats. I just know Trump does not like dogs. I will say I don't argue with people who don't like animals because most of the time, I would say 1% of them are psychopaths and they want to kill animals. The other 99% usually have a pretty good reason. And I used to be like, what? You don't like dogs? You don't like people picked a fight with Forrest for that. And then Forrest one day told me why. And I'm like, you don't have to tell like everybody that. I think he maybe has, but I'm not going to share it. But like, valid. There are perfectly valid reasons to not.
Yeah.
Depending on like what happened in your childhood. And then you'll get weird people who will pop in like, well, I had this bad experience in my childhood and I didn't. And it's like, so what? That is such a weird thing to say as like your defense of like, just because you handled it okay, doesn't mean one, your experience was the same, or two, that other people handle things the same way. It's wild.
People always do that. Like, it's kind of like when people will say like, oh, I'm so tired. And the other person that they're talking to is like, you're tired. I did this. I was like, or perhaps we can both be tired at the same time. And this is actually not a competition. And it's based off of my experience. Like, why do we need to do this?
Yeah. As a misogynist, one of the great victories we had as toxic men in the last couple years was the revelation that man flu actually exists, that men experience the flu much worse than women do. And so,
I didn't see that.
And so women who would always be like, oh my God, you get the flu and you just act like you are dead. And I get it. And I still do everything. And then it actually turns out that no, we actually get larger viral loads. It hits us harder because of the different, many reasons. Now that doesn't mean every man and every woman. I've had flus that I've worked through and I've had flus that have knocked me out. But that's the kind of thing where it's like, you literally don't, even when I say I'm tired and you say you're tired and you say I only got 2 hours of sleep and I maybe got 5 hours of sleep, our bodies are different. So you might be able to do more with 2 hours than I can do with 5. Look, I am definitely not healthy, but I'm healthier than Donald Trump. But somehow that motherfucker lives off of apparently, and this has been reported by enough people both on his side and off, he apparently only sleeps about 3 hours a night. And
what?
For an 88-year-old or 78, 79-year-old man on 3 hours a night, that amount of energy is fucking nuts. It does explain some of his neuroses, some of his psychoses, some of the fucking nut shit he does, because your brain is not okay if you are only sleeping 3 hours. But the fact that he never seems visibly tired, that he does still have the physical energy in a day, that shit's fucking crazy.
Shocking.
So you don't know when a person says tired versus tired. If I'm tired, and I might be describing not actually like sleepy because I didn't get enough sleep, but because physical fatigue is a symptom of my condition. And sometimes I'm describing like, I kind of feel like I might be about to die. It'll pass in like 20 minutes, but right now I feel like I'm going to die. Like that's where I am. Yeah.
Yeah. I can't do I'm not good at running on low sleep. Like if I've slept like 5 hours or less, I'm kind of useless the next day. I'm really just not, I can't function on low sleep anymore. Maybe when I was in my 20s, but not anymore.
Yeah. We'll jump to calls here in a minute. We've only got one. We'd love to have, if you believe that America is great, despite everything happening, or was great even before Trump, if you have a positive take on America that you would like to defend? And look, I have a couple of individual positive takes. I do think that as a nation, we have the highest potential for the future. I think right now we're kind of fucking squandering it and really turning away from any potential. But I do think, because you have this sort of white Christian nationalism desperately, what we thought and maybe hoped were death throes in past years has turned out to be stronger than just a dying animal. And that's been unfortunate. But all that to say, I do think that there are positives about this country and the fact that we are a melting pot civilization, that at the massive size we are and the amount of diversity we have in our nation, both at the macro level and then if you move into, I didn't know this until recently, but I knew that we were on track for white people to not be the majority race in America in the coming decades. I didn't know that Texas is already not majority white. And I
Wow.
kind of started to pick that up after moving here and just like going to the grocery store and being like, I came from an extremely liberal state that's going to sniff its own farts a lot, like Denver in Colorado rather. But Colorado is still culturally segregated in many ways. Like I can tell you in Denver, where most of the Asian people live, most of the Black people live, most of the Mexican people live, and most of the white people live, because while there is some blending in there, that sort of stuff they have still culturally divided in these different ways where they're still grouping by race. Oddly, here in Texas, granted, I live near Austin, which is a more left-wing to liberalism to left-wing is like most people on the spectrum would be somewhere between liberal and leftist in the Austin area. And then obviously there are still Republicans, but the majority and way more culturally blended. Just there is like a culture shock when you lived in like Colorado and Wyoming for so long. And in Wyoming, there just is mostly white people. And in Colorado, you're just mostly kept around other white people. And then you get here and you're like, oh yeah, I forgot that there aren't actually that many white people in the world in general. And it's like, I'm at my normal grocery store, which I'm realizing is that they don't have this sort of like the part of town that race lives in here that culturally honestly exists still in Denver. It's fucking crazy. And so it is much more integrated here. But then at the state level, obviously it is still ran by white oligarchy, and they've been able to basically gerrymander and manipulate the populace and make them afraid, a lot of brown people, of voting, because then there's more record and that might come down badly on anybody you might be living near. How am I not underwater right now? In Austin, Texas? This is the middle of Texas. What do you mean? I don't know what you're talking about. I'm drinking water. If somebody is thinking this coffee cup is full of, and you know what? Fuck you, Forrest. Who was the other one on Forrest's side? Was it you who was saying that people who drink cold water out of mugs are crazy?
Oh, no, that was not me. That's funny.
It was Forrest and Promise. That was my second guess. Yeah, Luthien has just reminded us that it was actually Promise.
Honored to be confused with Promise.
Yeah, it happens. Do you drink cold drinks out of mugs ever?
No. Sometimes when we're doing the shows and I want to use my The Line Has a Podcast mug, I'll put my water in there. So like that's the only time I ever really do that, but I don't do that often. Usually I like drinking hot and warm things. So I'll just, if I want to use that mug, I'll more likely make tea and put it in there.
Yeah. All right. Should we take a call, or is there any other news stuff you want to bring up?
Not really. I'm feeling very bummed and honestly scared. Actually, I'm really nervous about the future of my job on like the sex coaching front, because I think the censorship is going to get a lot worse, and that there's going to be less and less tolerance for sex education. And there is a world where my type of work will be put in the same category as pornography or sex work, and I will not be able to do it any longer. And this is like a conversation that's happening within the community of the sex educators that I'm connected with.
Mm-hmm.
So I know I'm like not the only person that's thinking it, but it's also like I don't want to be alarmist and start like running circles around myself, but it does suck that like I have to kind of consider how this administration and what they've done will affect what my job looks like.
Have you started memorizing like the best routes to somewhere in Canada from where you are in New York? Just like, all right, if I really had to, if I had to walk there.
Listen, I have family in Toronto and they would take me anytime. Thank God.
Just going. Yep. All right. Well, cool. By the way, I once again really like the new hair is just great.
Thank you. Sometimes I really like it and sometimes I really hate it, but I think today I like it.
Okay, good. Everyone, today is the day you're allowed to tell just about the hair. I know there's usually no commenting on and only the hair on the head, you weirdos.
Oh
you can put,
my God.
We get a little crazier over on. This is going to probably go out as a special episode of The Podcast Has a Line. The Podcast Has a Line. The Line has a podcast.
The Podcast Has a Line.
That sounds like an admission to drug use is what that sounds like.
Oh my God, it does. The Podcast Has a Line. Yeah,
The Podcast Has a Line. Let's go ahead though and take a call. We'll start off with Todd in Canada. Todd in Canada, you're on the line with Alyssa and Jimmy. Todd, how are you?
Hi, can you hear me?
Sure do.
Yes.
Nice. Hi. So I'm Todd, she, they in Canada, Ottawa.
Great.
Nice to meet you.
I just want to say thanks. I want to tell you that I've been calling for like 3 years and I'm so glad that you took my call today. I love your show. And Jimmy, I followed you since the beginning of everything you did. And I love
condolences.
Everything.
That's really nice, anyways, Todd.
Well, thank you. So anyways, I'm not going to argue today. So I'm Native and French Canadian, and I live in Ottawa, and I'm calling today because I'm seeing like everything that's happening in the US right now, and I find it really scary and sad. And I'm wondering, why are other countries letting this happen? Like, what do you think? Like, why isn't anyone doing anything? Because it looks like what was happening in Germany. And it's awful. All your rights are being stripped away, and it's disgusting. So I'm wondering, what would be your take on that?
I think, did you have something? You can go first if you want.
I do think part of it is because some of the other countries that could potentially intervene have like relationships with Trump that might make that impossible. Like, I think that he's picked some allies here and there, and then he's made himself look like such a fucking asshole to everyone else. And so I think that that's a big part of it, but I don't know, Jimmy, what do you think?
It's going to be multifaceted.
And what would they even do?
Right.
Like, what could they even do?
It's going to be multifaceted. One, some element is going to be, if you wanted to go with like a slightly positive almost element, but still negative because nobody's doing anything to help anybody. America and Canada to some degree gets a little bit of this from us too. But America, how interventionist we are and how much we don't respect for America, sovereignty isn't just America. It's like our sovereignty also extends into your country in as much as you are serving us. Whereas a lot of countries aren't so interventionist. They aren't so just the idea of like, look, we're here, we're taking care of our people, all of that kind of stuff. That's what we're here to do. There are international organizations that are supposed to be watchdogs for these things, but even those things have become a joke, as you can have a country like Israel that's committing a genocide veto a resolution which declares a genocide happening in Israel. So even those like sort of watchdog groups and the things like the UN is mostly represented. It's mostly metaphorical almost. But then as Alyssa has mentioned, what really would they do? And we have all of the leverage because America has exported their military power. Now, Trump, ironically, may be ruining a lot of that because he is being so volatile with his foreign policy, so ridiculous with the economic policies and stuff. there are now countries that have been our trade partners for centuries, like since our inception, essentially going, oh, wow, we're actually super reliant on you. So these things that we used to have with you, we'll go now and make deals with people who might, human rights wise, not be much better, but we can have a steadier relationship with, because at the end of the day, it's still about our own citizens. And so America basically decided a long time ago they were going to be the world's police, but not the world's humanitarians. And now people are kind of pointing out like, no, any good, like real police force would actually be a bit of a humanitarian force, first of all, like mostly, and then the policing would come second. And so as people are kind of, no other country is really that to us. Nobody gets to police America back. And it's just a matter of you rely on us too much for imports, especially all the other, we consume a lot more than we put out. We are a consumerist nation. Our military power is incredible. Like it is excessively incredible. We are likely the strongest nuclear nation on the planet, unless Russia has secretly edged us out. But I think that we would have found that out during this conflict with Ukraine. If anything, it's turned out that Russia probably doesn't have as much power as they have broadcasted. Not that they, you know, they haven't used nukes during this, but yeah, it's what would they do? What would they do that would be effective is pretty much what it comes down to.
And even if
I think that's a good question.
The first thing I was thinking is like, hypothetically, if they stopped wanting to trade or closed their borders or whatever to Americans, I think that the part of it is, and like you touched on this too, Jimmy, Trump is so volatile, like he'll do whatever the fuck he wants. And so now at this point, especially with bombing Iran and not having it go through the process it's meant to before, and him just kind of like doing that on his own, I think it would scare me in a different country to push any of the boundaries or push the limits that he's created, like to whatever, try and make some sort of line in the sand to be like, this is not okay. Because I think Trump is very quick to just do whatever the fuck he wants, and these other countries want to protect their people. Imagine that.
That's true. You know what? Those are actually really good points. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else?
And well, it's really interesting. And I just want to say that, you know, when Trump came into office, like the first time, we all thought it was a joke. And then he kept coming into office and we're like, what? And then there's like a felon who's in office in the US, and then we're like, it's the end of the world. Like, what are we going to do? This is insane.
Yeah.
But anyways, well, thank you for answering my question. And I think that those are really good points. It's all for me today, but have a good show. And thank you so much.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks, Todd.
Thanks. Bye.
All right. It looks like we might have some MAGAs coming out. I don't know if they're MAGAs or just, we'll find out here. Let's move to talking to John in Australia. This is going to be an interesting. Yeah, John. So you're not from America, but you're pro-Trump, it sounds like. What you got going?
Hello there. Am I audible? Yes. I would say I'm relatively pro-Trump. I'm not all the way in. I'm a libertarian. At least that's how I would probably define myself. But
well, I don't know if you were an American libertarian, I assume that you would not be able to sustain that. You're saying he supports Australian libertarianism somehow because of the, I guess, potential of isolation from, I don't know. I don't know how a libertarian would make the case that he's a particularly compatible. I mean, literally his spending bill is the largest spending bill. Is it of all time? The things that he's doing right now, the redistribution of wealth of poor to the rich, basically using the government for the biggest move of money from people who aren't already rich to the rich. Not even, we can't call that free trade. That it's very oligarchy kind of shit. So I don't know if you're saying he's good for Australian libertarianism, but he's literally expanding presidential power and government power in America. He's certainly, I think even American libertarians here recognize that he is no good for them.
No, of course. Well, Massey put up some resistance. I think Rand Paul voted against it.
Yep.
Or maybe it was the other way around. I don't know. But look, I attempt to be practical in my ideology. I know a lot of people in the chat are not exactly agreeing with that position, but I attempt to be practical, and I think when a government has spent itself into a hole, then there must be a desperate measure in order, if you want to pay out the debt, then you have to grow the economy somehow. And I think I would personally support, yes, we need to make these cuts, and we need to make this basically light a fire under the economy and see what happens.
I think
but the big beautiful bill is going to add trillions of dollars to the deficit.
Right.
So it's not helping us at all. It's just distributing all of our money to wealthy people here and adding to our deficit.
Well, I would disagree. I
There's nothing to disagree with. That's just what it is.
These are the numbers, right? These are the numbers. This is the independent analysis, not even like partisan analysis that it is going to add that. But on top of that, you said light a fire under the economy. There's a difference between lighting a fire under and lighting the economy on fire. And
that's a good one.
Every step of, well, you can let me finish before you jump in. Every step of the way, economically, you're talking about things that were going to do good for the economy. He just destabilized the American credit rating and the American economy by being so unpredictable and seemingly volatile when it comes to our foreign trade partners, that now they are seeking new deals, including Australia, with other countries that are more reliable, even if they're not better in a humanitarian way, or even necessarily cheaper, but more predictable. He is setting us up for, and by the way, this is his second go. He went the first time, and we have now seen the problems with Trumpism. And now we've come to phase 2, and we're like, well, maybe this time around, the explosion of the deficit that he did before by giving tax cuts to the people who don't need it and paying for it by taking from the poor. And now that he's run Doge, which are doing things like eliminating things like the Consumer Finance Bureau, which for every dollar you give it returns something like $20 to $30 to the actual consumers. I don't know which policies you're thinking are going to be smart. And especially when he already shit the bed the first time, and now you think the second time around the bed shitting is better?
Well, if you don't mind me retorting, I'd say when it comes to, you touched upon the idea of giving tax cuts to the rich. I think it's always been shown that tax cuts to the rich, taxation upon the rich has always been passed off to the consumer. I think that's just a simple fact of.
No, it's very much never ever been that way.
I don't know.
In a documented way. How would it? Yeah.
During the best periods of economic growth in our country's history, like under FDR, and then even later during part of even Reagan's term, the highest tier, where we're talking about the ultra rich, people were paying something like 90% taxes, and everybody was doing better. So if you want to say that there may have been some increased consumer inflation, which, by the way, right now we've had tremendous inflation, even though we had the Donald Trump tax cuts this entire time. But also our most prosperous time as a country has been when wealth is redistributed, when if you hoard some crazy amount of money, you are, some of that is taken back from you. You don't get to hoard it. I don't even know how you would make that case when you can look at income inequality in America and see that as time has gone on, and especially now, billionaires are able to accumulate more wealth than ever, and yet wealth disparity is higher than ever. If what you just said was true, then wealth disparity would have been better during the periods of time where rich people got to keep the most money, but instead we have increased their wealth and decreased the amount of the pie that the rest of us get to share.
I would say that I don't think FDR's policies were sustainable. I don't think that the redistribution, while it led to short-term benefits, I don't think it's panned out. And this also goes for Woodrow Wilson's, I think, disastrous turn
And Grant, all of
as the helmsman of a
whatever you're repeating from your r/libertarian points are great that you can speculate about. The fact of the matter is all of those things have been reversed in some way. And right now we are living at a period of time where you can be the biggest billionaire you've ever been able to be. Somebody in America will probably be a trillionaire within the decade, and income inequality is higher than ever.
Well, I would also point out that billionaires are not necessarily, they're not sitting on wealth as liquid assets. A lot of that, or most of that, is bound up in investments.
Doesn't matter.
So that's not necessarily.
If you actually take it, absolutely doesn't matter, because it is still sitting money somewhere that could be redistributed. If they would actually invest, when you say invest in actual workers and shit, instead of, first of all, when you're saying a lot of theirs, if they have $100 billion and half of it is in investments, fine, let's just talk about taxing the half that isn't. Let's start talking about the stuff that they don't need to have.
Well,
and also, let's start talking about the way.
The only person who would approach half would be Warren Buffett.
And let's start also talking about the proportions of payments that they get to pay themselves, how much Elon Musk gets to make versus the people actually doing their work. All of these
aren't liquid.
All of these are elements to, and by the way, you're talking about most of them are investments. Most of them are holding them in stock, which is also a problem. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. I wanted to circle back to my idea that when you restrict the people who own the means of production, then eventually they're going to pass it back to the consumer. That is precise. I believe precisely what saying I have a monopoly, I have a stranglehold over the over what gets produced and when it is produced. All right. If you're going to take that away from me, all right, then I'm simply going to raise prices.
And then we should simply socialize their industry if they are pivotal and take them, or have a regulatory body,
which I respect.
Or you have or you can have regulatory bodies which prevent those types of things. But what you're describing still doesn't matter much, because what you are describing is essentially like the thing that people wouldn't understand when it came to the Bernie Sanders thing. Sure, you're going to try and pass it along. At the end of the day, hundreds of billions of dollars to trillions of dollars, if you add up the total, that they would have had access to will necessarily go back into the economy and go back to workers. So maybe they're going to increase prices, but everybody else will be doing much better than the amount they increase. Much like with the Medicaid for all thing, where people want to say, well, if you do Medicaid for all, you're going to pay an extra X number of dollars in taxes. And they never like to bring up, but you'll also pay this much less in your combined premiums. You'll pay this much less in your care for the year. And that your overall experience is going to be a net gain with better lives, better healthcare, better housing, better all. Sure, the cost of milk might go up. As long as your wages go up more than the cost of milk, fine.
Isn't that part of the idea behind the big, beautiful bill? That yes, we slash some amounts of what they would claim to be wasteful spending. I'm not 100% convinced, but they would slash spending in order to stimulate the economy, so that the people who have the money, whether or not you agree with the fact of the matter that they should have the money, will be able to attempt to increase the effect of their capital.
No, because first of all, the things that they are slashing are entitlements that once again pay back more than they take. So the nice thing about Medicaid is by doing Medicaid, you have an overall group that is healthier, and you actually increase the amount of taxes that they can pay in overall. They're participating more. they are able to do more with their lives because they have healthcare. Entitlement, SNAP program, food program, these types of things actually pay us back. They are not things that we are wasting money on. But then what you are describing is the idea, the theory behind it all, which has been debunked since Reagan started talking about it. Trickle-down economics has never worked. If you give rich people more money, they hold on to more money. They have such a level of disdain and separation from the working class and poor people that to them, they are literally all numbers on a sheet. They don't care about those people. They care about making them more efficient. And now as we are heading into a world where we are going to be able to eliminate more and more entry-level positions at an extreme level over the course of the next 10 years, and then basically the entire working class over the next couple decades, right now we shouldn't be moving in a direction that creates more safety for the rich people who will be rich no matter what. We should be creating more safety for the people who are not rich and figure out what is our plan exactly if 30 to 40% of people there isn't work for in, let's say, 20 years from now, and it might even be much sooner for. Why aren't we talking about the things that are going to cover that? Why is it apparently that we are still doing this fake capitalism that we're pretending is being complemented by a pseudo democracy that hasn't been representative in almost the entire time it has existed, if it ever was, and not talking about things like, okay, we are going to just not have jobs for people before too long. Why is this what we're focusing on when we know what we are on the cusp of? And the obvious answer is the reason why billionaires' interests are being served the most is because the people in Congress serve billionaires the most. And the president is literally one of them.
Yes, no, I understand. And actually, I agree with a lot of what you're saying. I just don't agree with the idea that wealth should be distributed through government means. I think it has always proved itself to be a inefficient and a wasteful way of doing it.
And the only other worse system is every other one.
Well, I don't agree.
Wealthy people have proved to us over and over again that they will not redistribute the funds themselves. So I don't understand what you're suggesting.
John, if you don't mind me asking, what is your net worth?
There is a high barrier of my net worth. Oh, dude, I'm broke. But
so
what I'm saying is,
John, I'm glad you answered that. I'm glad you answered that honestly. So you're broke. How much do you think the rich people actually give a fuck about you? Let's say they didn't have any restrictions. They can make as much money as they want. Do you actually think any of them give a shit about you? Not even as a person, but whatever group of people you exist in.
No, I believe in an economic system based upon self-interest. That's libertarianism. But my idea is that just lumping
broke libertarians always shock me.
This,
what is the system you would use? Go ahead. Other than a government, let's just get to what is the system you would use that isn't a government to redistribute the wealth to say, 1% of people cannot have 70% of all of the security, all of the resources that everybody gets.
Well, I would say free enterprise, and we need to slash the government that is preventing people from entering these markets. Cut the regulations and ensure that, if there's people who can do it cheaper, people who can do it better, people who you can foster community with, you can do that.
I think that is the most naive take I have ever heard, even from a libertarian, the idea that the prevention of entering the market is somehow right now government protected, and that it is in fact not monopolies like Amazon who simply have to pretend to like Trump, and suddenly all the regulations that we're going to break them up, those things aren't really being talked about anymore. You are describing a world in which you will,
if you may.
You are describing a world in which we will all live in Amazon housing one day. And so instead of a government, you will have a corporation.
You have a choice whether to consume or not.
No, you don't.
You have a choice.
That's insane.
I have a choice.
To actually participate, and you're literally talking about being a self-dependent individual. How do you have the choice whether or not to participate in our economy? And therefore, you're saying like you have a choice, but it's kind of like you as a slave has a choice whether you're going to do this or that. Granted, I'm going to beat the fuck out of you if you choose wrong. If you do not participate in the consumerist economy in America, you are going to get the shit beat the fuck out of you. So if you do try to start a business and you don't try to order things through Amazon, your costs are going to go way up in a way that is going to make it impossible for your business to thrive.
I recycle and I make things myself. There's not really anything online that I really need to buy. I pay for internet, certainly, but I shop around and see if I can find the best deals.
And what do you use to shop around and find the best deals?
What I use?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
today you got up, let's say today,
I used to.
What's a tool you might need to buy right now?
Not really a whole lot of anything. I ride a bike to work. The bike's
But you said you build things out of recyclables. Do you have a miter saw?
Do I have a miter saw? Generally, I could, but I can also use one that I buy from the community.
How did you find that community miter saw?
How do you mean, how do I find it? I know people in real life.
Okay, great. So you get a community miter saw. Now, you need a new blade for it. Where are you getting your new blade?
Well, I can either buy local or I can obviously use something that's publicly enterprised, like our mail system currently is. I don't necessarily have to buy from China or from...
I'm not asking you to buy from China. I'm saying that I think that you are absolutely full of shit here, that you aren't sitting here going like, I went on Facebook Marketplace, even buying this secondhand miter saw. The miter saw is still coming from a larger corporation.
I live in the middle of nowhere.
Sure. So you're buying secondhand perfectly. You're buying secondhand, perfectly working and in order items that are still coming from the bigger corporations, because people aren't building them in their garage.
Get any money for
you're still getting a Grizzly, you're still getting a DeWalt, you're still getting the secondhand market still supports the firsthand market, but yes, they individually are not. And you're thinking, what? This is a model that everybody could do? That if everybody wanted to, they could only go secondhand because the secondhand market is so flooded with extra stuff.
It puts pressure on the corporations.
Good. Put pressure on the corporations. Good. Yeah. And by the way, they keep figuring out how to fuck people over with that. Look at the launch of the Nintendo Switch.
The thing about socialists, I find, is that they're actually really, really good consumers. And they've been brought up in a consumer environment and they don't see an alternative.
Yes, we're hypocrites. We are hypocrites because we are here in a consumerist society, consuming when there is literally zero ability to have ethical consumption under. Meanwhile, you're over here defending capitalism, and homie, you already admitted you don't have any money. So you're defending a thing that isn't working for you, somewhat hypocritically.
No,
I'm defending socialism, which is the thing that I think we should head toward. And by the way, if you want to talk about socialist hypocrisy, I ain't the one, because I literally own this company and distribute to our workers based on a profit share model that is according to the labor they put in, regularly pay my employees a higher what you would call hourly wage than I receive. And my number two person who does most of the work always makes more, month after month, makes more money than I do. So that's fine if you want to talk about the other socialists, but you didn't find the right one if you wanted to come at this one.
Look, I'm just saying that there are options, and I don't think it should be as unimaginable as people think. Maybe libertarian was the wrong way to describe myself. You know, I could also be a primitivist.
For sure. Incredibly privileged would be maybe the better way. To live in a community with such a robust... you live in a community with apparently a robust second-hand market where you can make out of recycled material stuff enough to apparently pay for that for which you need to live. You have, as you've already pointed out, internet. I'm going to assume you also have a smartphone since you called on a web caller. If you're not also, or maybe you're calling from a computer.
No, I used a computer. It's
great.
Kind of an old thing, but you know, I can.
You also have a computer, you have internet access, you have, and apparently live in this incredible community that can sustain your minority lifestyle because you want to live a little bit fringe and apparently can make all of the extra Meanwhile, as a libertarian, you're talking about how you're living against the consumer way, even though libertarianism would be much more compatible with I don't know if you know what your own positions are.
I have the freedom to choose.
No, you don't.
I've chosen.
You really don't. Because even your secondhand market is
could,
entirely dependent on the firsthand market. It's great that you live in an area and place with so much privilege that you have options to potentially live a more frugal lifestyle and still have comforts. And the fact that you don't recognize the absolute privilege that comes with living in a westernized, civilized nation that has excess of all of those things, that works for
when
you,
there's
that you
demand,
recognize
people
that as
will move
anything besides
towards
privilege is crazy.
community. No, but
Sorry?
people will move towards this form of community if they feel
That's
the
true.
incentive.
I think if we undermine corporations enough, people will
yes,
head more toward
let's
communities,
link up.
and it would be like a sort of communityism. I don't know
like
what you would call it.
corporations
Some sort of like, you'd have like maybe like places large peoples would live. This sort of communityism is probably what would take over if we did more things to undermine
very good, actually.
corporations. Thanks. That's what they
But
pay me
I
for.
don't trust an ordered collective with my money.
Nobody's described authoritarianism. All governments are going to have some form of quote unquote ordered, and you do have to have something to keep civil. But I don't know of a single socialist I remotely respect that isn't talking about a much, much more democratic, actually representative system, not a much less. A system which works for all people, that all people get a say in. Not much. Right now, we live in a joke of a democracy. The fact that we think this is a democracy, when thanks to gerrymandering and everything else, your representatives have nothing to do with whether or not they're representing the actual interests of an area.
That's true.
Is
true.
crazy.
I don't trust them. I also don't trust any kind of collective that I don't myself have some kind of executive power over. And that's what always happens when you end up with
let's come back to your Trumpism then.
A impossible.
When it comes to America, which party has undermined more? Which one has passed more laws to divert further the representation from an area from looking like the actual area itself? In other words, let's say you have a state that has 50% Democrats and 50% Republicans, just to go easy on it, but they have a governor or group of one or the other. Which party has more dramatically changed it so that the representation will not look that way and will look much more heavily weighted one or the other? I'm specifically saying more heavily. I'm not going to pretend that one side hasn't done it as much or hasn't done it also.
I haven't really been thinking about that because I feel like this is a natural consequence of having a large and obscure government. No, just government general.
Okay, well, then since you haven't been thinking about it, I'll let you know. The Republicans are why the distribution of representation and the concept of democracy have been way further undermined than what the Democrats aren't great. I'm not a Democrat. Way, way worse. And in the last 5 years, as Project 2025 has been being worked on, you can go read Project 2025 yourself, and you can see how much of it we have gotten to. Donald Trump himself has undermined the ability for
particular kind of way.
Sir, you can't call in and say you're pro-Trump then, because Trump is expanding not just the government, but his own presidential powers to the point that he isn't convinced he will have to leave at the end of the term, even though that is locked in our Constitution, that it's 2 terms and then up.
Trump due to his foreign policy.
What was good about his tariff policy was fucking crazy. His foreign economic or his foreign defense policy? Which one is it that you think is good?
Kind of all of the above. At least I like it more. It entertains me. Let's just say that.
Well, how about what's good for people? Because you and I aren't going to debate what you find more entertaining. What's good for humanity? What is the better humanistic policy?
Well, you know I'm a libertarian. I don't really care about humans. That's a joke. But the
kind of a joke.
Kind of, yeah. But let me say, I actually very much enjoyed his tariff policy. I know that it is obviously a big damper on free trade, but I feel at this point the market, there's markets correcting themselves, and then there's markets
being set on fire
towards a worldwide collapse. Unsustainable and just rank distortions due to
What market is
mercantile.
correcting itself? I'm just curious when you say that. What market is correcting itself?
US-China market. Look, I will accept
That's a
The U-
wild.
China.
Australia is literally
so-
right now making stronger bonds with China, as is Canada, are the other Western nations that are our trade partners,
Yeah, and I
because
hate
we've
it.
become unreliable. And so, John, I don't even know how to debate you when I feel like I could make you from this point in the call debated you from earlier in the call, where you're like, sure, it undermines free trade, but then a minute ago you're like, but free enterprise is what would fix everything. I don't know that you know what your positions are.
We're in a situation right now where if something wasn't to be done, then we have a catastrophic collapse. We've pushed it so far in one direction that if we don't swing the pendulum back with a little bit of force, I think there will be no recovery.
The day that you realize your oversimplified metaphors like pendulums are not enough to explain a complex system will be the day you have a crisis and realize, oh shit, this was all just a bunch of nonsense. Because you're describing as though what Trump did is moving the pendulum back in a direction that was positive before, as though there were only two directions for this pendulum to swing. And it's nowhere, it's nothing like that. And as you've mentioned, it's actually undermined a lot. It's put a lot into instability. The American economy, which you might find very entertaining, is now as brittle as it's ever been, even as we're continuing to look at
American
markers.
Economy is robust. It's the best investment in the world, unfortunately.
The American economy is robust in that the stock market is doing well. Go talk to people on the ground.
No, the
Our
stock
wealth
market was doing well under
inequality
Biden.
is still through the goddamn roof. The markers of what we measure the economy and tell the rest of the world means we're doing good does not speak to whether or not there's literally child poverty in the richest nation in the world. But I agree. The rich people here are doing better than ever, and they get the best healthcare in the world.
Yeah, well,
who gives a fuck about
I don't
them?
necessarily think it's that way.
I'm glad they'll be very healthy when we eat them.
We're conflating between the health of an entire economy and the health of 1%. I don't think you can quite do that.
That's literally what America does. That's how America broadcasts. We literally describe having the best healthcare system in the world. Come try it. Come try it as a non-rich person. Come have some fun with it. Because it is not the best healthcare system in the world if you are middle class or lower. It's actually a very bad. People talk about their wait lines they go through. I literally tried to just get my establishing care with a new primary care provider where I live because I just moved. I am months away from being able to say, hi, I'm Jimmy, open a file, because they're so backed up. But, you know, if you were in the NHS right now and you broke your leg, they wouldn't even fix your leg for 6 months, which isn't true. You got it fixed immediately. We literally broadcast our success based on what the privileged class people get, not what the middle class, working class, or less get. Period. And I don't know which foreign policy you think is good, because what he's doing in
go on. Yeah.
What he's doing in the Middle East is insane. What's happening with Iran is partially his fault for pulling out of the Iran nuclear deal. What's that?
No, Iran wasn't following the rules. I'll go into bat for him.
What rule? And what rules did they still need to follow? We had a deal with them. We tore it up. Oh my God, America! First of all, our own intelligence said that they were following the rules for the most part, and they weren't seeking a nuclear bomb. And Donald Trump went, well, I think not, and so we're doing it. So you don't even have the evidence of what you're saying. But also, we had a nuclear deal with them. Trump got into office, and because it was popular with Fox News viewers, he tore it up and said, we're not going to play by the rules. And you want to sit there and go, this country that never plays by the rules should police the other people who aren't quote unquote playing by the rules, with still zero evidence that there were any nuclear bombs, as though we can't remember. I remember the weapons of mass destructions in Iraq. We just love repeating it. I wonder George W. Bush is largely responsible for ISIS and those other radicalized groups. I wonder which ones Donald Trump will be responsible for in the future as we head toward more destabilizing actions that are going to bring us another 9/11 one day.
But let's be frank. When it comes to geopolitics, there's no such thing as morality.
Well, those are words you could
Why?
say in an order. Why would I agree with that?
Because it's all based upon wider systems of power.
We've literally seen that now that things are more visible, countries make decisions differently and slower. As bad as things are happening in Gaza right now, if it weren't for smartphones, it would already be over and the whole place would be gone. Many, many thousands more would be dead. So we know that governments are capable of making better decisions than before, even as they make terrible decisions. And we know that sunlight tends to be the thing that does that. And so sunlight comes in the form of both exposure and then pressure. And so if a government by the people is actually making those decisions because the people are actually watching the government, you can see a future world where these geopolitical foreign policies are going to be more humanistic. I don't, those are just words you say. Goodness sakes.
Yeah, I suppose that's the conversation. Well, I'm not going to pivot to Gaza because that's a whole nother kettle of fish.
Genocide, that'd be tough. Yeah. Let's just stick to the other foreign policy stuff, like how he's absolutely biffed it in Russia with Russia and Ukraine, coming in saying he would have it done before he even took office. And now he's having to come around and go, oh, remember everything I was told before about Russia? Turns out it's true. And that he actually is, he's acting like he just found out that Vladimir Putin is a despot.
That was to stimulate the European defense budget. Actually get them spending again.
So
why would that
be? When Donald Trump does something absolutely fucking redacted, he's actually secretly doing genius shit, even as he is melting down on Truth Social. And again, his promise was he would have the war ended the first week, not even of his presidency, but after he was elected, before even taking office. But that was all part of this greater 4D chess move that he was going to make NATO pay more money.
No, it's the politician's lie. I was like, when he said that, I was like, okay, fair enough. You know, people make these promises and they're ridiculous. All right,
John,
everyone knows
at least you share the gullibility of every libertarian I've ever met, because this is
hilarious. Thank you.
This is an absolutely like that. You think this man is a genius when he is visibly
I don't think he's a
stupid.
Genius.
That you are describing genius levels of like political calculus and then we got our end goal of the increased NATO spending only at the cost of thousands of civilian lives in Ukraine, many thousand more of Russian lives, because Russia they do not care about their own soldiers. There isn't a thing you have said so far that all of the evidence against is heavily present.
Well, like I said, there's no morality, and they should have been more. Well, all right, fair enough. Agree to disagree, but I
mean, I know how the words work. What's a morality? There are many moralities. You can defend which ones are better and upon what basis there are. It's literally like pivotal to what we do here, because we're trying to spread secular humanism over any type of theological morality, which I have to assume is part of the basis of your own libertarian thing, because I assume you find no appeal in humanism because you have a concept of it's not all going to matter in the eternal perspective of things. But I don't know where yours is coming from. I guess that's almost a hope for you, because otherwise I just think you were a sociopath.
I mean, I maybe, I don't know, but you won't have to worry about me. Look,
I wasn't worried about you before.
Well, that's cheery. Where were we again? Sorry, you went on a bit of a.
I don't know. All I know is you've called in to defend a foreign policy. In the notes, you mentioned that it's best since Reagan, despite the fact that their foreign policies are literally incompatible with each other. I don't think Reagan's were as great, but you will find that the most Reaganistic Republicans here are the ones who are the loudest, most against Donald Trump.
I don't know. Look, the dude successfully collapsed the Soviet Union.
Mm-hmm. And Donald Trump is rebuilding it. If he could turn in his grave, he'd be doing flips right now.
If you mean the EU being the Soviet Union, then I suppose so, yeah.
If I mean the EU being the
that the
Soviet
Europeans-
Union, do you think that was a clever
No, that's
response?
enough.
I think it's maybe the Soviet Union president who literally within the last 2 weeks changed his goal from parts of Ukraine to all of Ukraine is a part of Russia and needs to return to it. So no, I don't
guess
mean the
Europe better-
EU as
better
the
arm up.
Soviet Union. Sorry, what?
I said, I guess the EU's better arm up, you know?
No, I don't know. I don't know why we need to do that. I don't know why we can't do preemptive defense to make it an impractical war like we were doing.
I don't know. I feel like, well, if we wanted to talk about preemptive defense, then Iran was pretty preemptive, you know?
It's not preemptive if you're imagining the shit. When we're talking about preemptive defense, we're talking about somebody who is at a war that has a track. It's literally like, all right, first we go to Ukraine, then we go to Poland or Belarus or whatever, where they are getting closer and closer, and you support the entry point to prevent the further
Generally, you
progression.
strike the place where they're
We haven't
enriching
struck
uranium
Russia. We have
50%.
only supported the
Well,
existing
I don't know.
conflict.
It would be nice.
We
to-
only supported the existing conflict between Russia and Ukraine that Russia initiated on Ukraine, which would also be the difference between us and supporting the offensive
Yeah.
that Israel is
and I'm excited
doing
to see,
on
for
Iran.
the record, I'm excited to see Russia collapse.
But you seem to
and
be
I hope that
excited
happens
to,
soon.
I
Their
feel like
economy-
you would wake up and see a nuke went off somewhere in the world and would be like, well, this is entertaining from everything
Well,
I've heard you
depends if
say
it's
so
over Tel
far.
Aviv.
What's
but-
that?
I'll be happy if it went off over Tel Aviv. But the,
You would be happy that a nuke
Um,
went off anywhere is fucking crazy.
well, I don't know, you know?
Okay, well, I gotta say, as we're defending whose morality is superior, I think the mass killing of mostly civilians is always a sad thing, not a positive thing.
It
and there's not a
degrades
group
the
of people to whom they
productive
could
capacity.
belong that I would be like, oh, that one's awesome.
Yeah, look, I mean, I wouldn't be like dancing in the streets, but you know, it would be okay. Sometimes, you know, sometimes it would certainly put a bit of a wet blanket on the whole capitalist issue.
40 minutes in, I'm just wondering, almost 40 minutes in, was any of this real or was this a troll call from the onset? Did we waste 40 minutes or are you really John from Australia who's actually a libertarian who has the views you just broadcasted?
Well, I think it's pretty clear I'm not a libertarian, but most of these views were correct.
Then what are you? Because if you think this is the socialistic perspective, half the shit you've said, especially coming on and going, you know, obviously leftists aren't happy with Israel, but to say nuke Tel Aviv is fucking insane. What perspective are you think you're presenting?
I don't know, man. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. We'll figure that out and call back because this was wildly
Anyway.
frustrating. Yeah.
See you guys.
Bye.
Have a good one. Lady didn't say much, but you know, that's all right.
I'm a misogynist.
I had nothing to say. Goodbye.
Bye.
That's okay. I've heard your stream. I don't think you had much to contribute.
You're an
Wow.
asshole.
Bye,
Goodbye.
Dick.
Fuck you.
What a fucking douche.
He was like, thank you so much. Our producer just had a really great thing that she said that
That
I
we
will not repeat.
Can't repeat. Thank goodness
but
your mic isn't live. But producer,
honestly-
would you be the sweetest little person and come and get my mug and go fill it with water and bring it back to me?
I had nothing to say to him because everything he was saying was so stupid. It was exactly like I said this, I think, on the podcast recently, where when I was younger, I thought when I didn't understand something, it was because I was dumb. But in reality, it's because what they're saying makes no fucking sense. And that's what was happening in that call. And I was like, this is not even worth, like, I actually don't care what that man has to say. And of course, it's like at the end of it, I was thinking, am I going to tell him that he's stupid? And then I was like, no, I don't want to like be mean to a person who is not like explicitly mean to me. And then he finishes the call and says, lady didn't have much to say.
Yeah.
You're stupid. You're bald. I already know from here. I already know your penis is the size of a grain of rice. Good luck. Also, I would like to know how he's telling me. Also, I have nothing against bald people. I just know that men get upset about it. But
It's not bald. He wears recycled hair that he gets from the community.
That's what I was going to say. I would like to know how he's talking about how he has this whole community of people who are giving him all these recycled goods that he's manufacturing into whatever shanty he lives in. But then he also said he lives in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, he's a community.
So I'm like, so do you live in the middle of nowhere, or do you live in a place where you have all of the resources because your neighbors are willing to do that for you? But then you're also, again, that was amazing when you're like almost like a commune. That was, yeah, that was crazy. Fuck that guy.
I don't think you should be making enemies of Alyssa, because we can both hear you desperately need to find the clit, and she, for a living, will tell you how to do it.
Yeah.
This man
also
know. He don't know how to find
Don't
it.
make an enemy out of me, because I am really nice until I'm not.
What's a total
really nice until I'm
continuous source of disappointment?
Yeah, it was just like, I was like, I don't actually even, when he actually, the second he called himself a libertarian, I was like, I don't want to have this fucking conversation. I don't want to have this conversation. And I was right. I didn't want to have that conversation.
Do you want the one on line 5 or the one on line 12 more? Because I'm pretty. 5 is like kind of next, but 12 is a little bit more. Wow.
It's a little closer to what we were talking about. Do you want to continue that kind of conversation?
I do.
Okay, so then do 12.
All right. Hayden in North Carolina, you are on the line with.
What's going on?
Yo, this is Jimmy and Alyssa. How are you doing?
Hello.
Doing all right. Happy July 4th. Yeah.
I guess.
I don't think I'm not feeling very patriotic today, Hayden.
Not at all.
Yeah, after that call, I can see why.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. He was Australian. I do kind of hate Australians more, and that's the American way.
Yeah.
Hating other countries, other people. Anyway, Hayden, what are you calling about?
I'm just confused of why people are out in the streets, going protesting, saying like no kings and stuff like that. Because we're obviously not turning into a monarchy.
Is that obvious?
I myself think it's pretty obvious we're not, but other people can differ.
I agree we're not turning into a monarchy.
What's that?
I think I agree we're not turning into an actual monarchy, but go on. Go ahead.
Okay.
I'll tell you what I do think in a moment.
So I don't believe why, because we have a bill which monarchies do not propose bills like fully into like a Congress of people to have a decision, but people are still believing that,
You're aware. Okay, so let's go with a couple of things. You don't believe we're turning into a monarchy. Do you believe we're turning into an oligarchy?
No, sir. I do not believe we're turning into an oligarchy.
I agree with you. You want to know why?
Why?
I think we done been an oligarchy. Like I don't think are turning into. I think it's now the expansions of the oligarchical power is getting crazy. There is definitely a monarchy type of thing, but we're mostly using the imagery and the phrases of the history of the world. So when we describe right now the easiest stories that come to mind of sort of authoritarianism and it's my way or the highway, more people will be familiar with monarchies of the past and the way they treated the peasant class and the way that they were authoritarian than they will even be of current examples. But certainly we are actually describing something more like a pseudo-democratic fascist regime, because you are aware. Okay, can we agree that Hitler was a fascist authoritarian?
100%. Hitler was a fascist person. He was horrible.
Right, and authoritarian, yes?
Yes, sir.
Did he come to power in a democracy?
No.
Yes, he did.
He did? Oh,
yes. So what we're describing is the same thing. They used democracy. They had bills. They passed laws. They voted on it. But the actual representation of the people kept getting eliminated further and further down. So Hayden, when you're here saying like, we just passed a bill, that's democracy, that's not oligarchy. What percentage of the people in the United States supported the big, beautiful bill?
I'd say over 50, like half of them. Like most Republicans, the Republican Party. Okay, let's find out. Yeah,
sure. I'm looking it up for you right now.
All right.
I will tell you it's not what you just said, but
It isn't? Oh.
no. Also, even if we get, and I don't know the answer yet, this isn't me trying to like figure out a way to word it. What percentage of people even knew what was in the bill? This is part of the ridiculousness of our democracy, is that not only have we become a pseudo representative democracy through gerrymandering, you don't actually get the representatives your state should have. So it's only fake. It's fake in that it is representative, but then we actually completely capitulate any lawmaking to these people, and we don't in any significant way punish them if they do the wrong thing, because we more pay attention to other people who tell us whether they were good or bad than evaluate them themselves. We capitulate a lot of our own responsibilities. Across multiple major polls conducted in June of 2025, between 29 to 31% of Americans said they supported the bill, while a clear majority opposed it. Quinnipiac found it 29% support, Axios 29%, and then the polling average reported by G. Elliott Morris put support at 31%. So if only 1/3 of the country, which basically describes who actually voted for Donald Trump only, if only 1/3 supported, should it have passed? 3 in 10 Americans.
I don't believe it. Actually, that's a great point to bring up. I do not. Now that you say that, I don't believe it should have passed.
So if I then describe to you, that's the reality. If you go and you do your own research, you find out it's true. Our question should be, if most Americans didn't want it, why did it pass anyway in a democracy? And if the answer is because Donald Trump wanted it to, that means one man mattered more than, let's just estimate in our head what 70% would be. What's that? 225 million people, roughly, if the population of the US is around 330. 225 million people's desires was lesser than one man. So can you understand then, from the perspective of people who are tracking, that time and time again, we are doing horrible things like the implementation of alligator Alcatraz, which has almost no support. Even Republicans are like, that seems pretty extreme, except for the most extreme MAGA people. We're having thing and thing again happening against the will of the people because one guy wants it. Now, do you understand where the slogan "No Kings" comes from?
Yeah, I understand that now, but I agree with Trump, most of his agenda, but I agree with you that he has some extreme points like Alcatraz. That should not be reopened. That was practically a torture chamber.
So what do you?
I also believe we should not have gotten involved with Iran and Israel. Let them handle it all by themselves.
Oh, definitely don't let Israel handle it all by themselves. But yes, cut off offensive weapon shipments at the very least, 100%. For sure. But don't support them committing a genocide. But definitely don't. If you just let them do whatever they're going to do, Gaza would be stopped quickly. How dare you wear a hoodie on the 4th of July? I don't know what the relevance of this isn't a hoodie. This is a cloak. I've started a cult, or I've become a handmaid. You decide. Anyway,
Hayden, what about Trump? What about his policies do you support?
I support his economic policy, the tariffs, 100%. I don't like how we are getting ripped off by other countries.
Are we?
I feel like we are. Yes, sir. I feel
Go
like
ahead and give us an example of a time we're being ripped off by a country in a way that they're not, that we don't do right back.
Okay, 100%. So, for example, China, we trade with them a lot. Mm-hmm. They up their prices for us, but while the other countries they trade with, they keep their prices lower and normalized.
Yeah, that's pretty well been debunked. We actually have great trade relationship with China because we buy more. We actually get better bulk prices than anywhere. There are tariffs on certain goods. By the way, we use them too. And the tariffs usually go like this. This happened with Canada a few years back. Canada had suddenly America had an excess of eggs. So we were trying to send our eggs into Canada. Eggs and milk, it might have been milk. I don't remember, but we had an excess of something. We'll just go with eggs. We tried to shove them all into, which was actually going to hurt the local economy in Canada. So Canada, being Canadian and going, we have to take care of ourselves, put a huge tariff on eggs to make it impractical. We do the same thing with lots of industry where we go, our local economy to this thing is super important. If we allow surges of that shit to come in here, then we are going to end up, basically, we're going to have Americans go poor while these foreign exporters become rich. And so America has prevented. Now, by the way, America also does the reverse. Right now, you cannot get a cheap electric car, even though we should be going toward electric cars because of these massive tariffs we've done. Whereas China is ready to sell us electric cars for under $30,000 a pop, except that there are multi-100% tariffs on them that are going to, if you wanted to, it basically makes them more expensive than a Tesla, despite the fact that they are actually in practice cheaper than a used car. So it is literally something that is done by both sides to try and, in some cases, when it's just, you could call it actually okay to do, wholly in a way, is to protect our people from becoming poor because of the influx. However, we do the tariffs to protect people like billionaires like Elon Musk and prevent them from getting excess competition from foreigners, which isn't going to hurt local communities in the same way. In fact, it can help a lot of them by giving them cheaper cars and forcing Tesla to innovate. So again, what you are describing is a thing that we're mad at them. By the way, that's not the defense Trump uses. Do you know what Trump uses? Do you know what it means when he says we have a trade deficit? Because that's his defense.
His defense, I believe he uses it as we're... Actually, I do not know. I may sound uneducated. I'm still deciding what political party is right for me.
I'm engaging you honestly.
I'm pretty young.
I'm engaging you honestly, like you don't know, and that's fine. Hayden, what grocery store do you like the most? You're in North Carolina. Do you
Giant or like Wise.
All right, so let's say you go to Giant and you spend $100 a month at Giant. I don't know what it actually is, but you buy $100 a month of products from Giant. How much does Giant buy off of you each month?
Hell a lot. Dude.
No, how much do they buy from you? Like things that do they buy clothes you make? How much food?
No, they don't. No, sorry. That brings a point. If I make clothing for them, say I make clothing for them, they buy it, but I don't buy it. I don't make clothing.
But I'm asking right now, literally for real. Hey, let's go with how much do you think you spend at Giant in a month? Do you mind answering that?
Like 300.
Okay, how much does Giant pay you in a month for things that you are selling? Exactly. So you have a trade deficit with your grocery store. You have a need to buy from them. They don't have a need to buy from you because they are the source. Now, is that unfair? Should they be forced to buy $300 of goods from you?
Yeah.
Yeah. What $300 of goods? We are a consuming nation. We buy from other nations because we consume more than they consume. We do export some stuff. It's mostly like survival stuff because we have farmers, we have access of certain things, but we don't export near as much. So the whole thing that he's saying, we have a trade deficit. We all have trade deficits with every store. Apple has not bought a single phone from me, and yet I buy a new fucking phone from Apple every other year. I have a trade deficit with Apple. Who's going to force them? And so he basically comes and says, okay, well, they spend we'll just go with $1 billion. It's much more than that, but they spend $1 billion less buying from us than we do there. So we're just going to add a tax that just gives us that $1 billion back to us.
Yeah.
So now imagine you could go to Giant and you can make them buy, I don't know, like you whittle something out of wood and you go, okay, Giant, you have to buy this thing made out of wood. And I spend $300 a month here. You have to buy one of these a month for $300. That's what his tariff policy is.
Okay.
That's what a trade deficit is.
I mean, yeah, I appreciate you explaining for me that. I'm not really like a big politics person. I just wanted to call in and talk about it because I'm just like a little confused on the monarchy and stuff like that.
Do you have any other things? I would love to disillusion you of any other positive policies you think he has, because genuinely, if you are a person who cares about humanity, go ahead.
Like the whole Doge situation, is there something like are those what he said during his speech when when Trump got inaugurated, all the things like the transitioning mice, the Saudi Arabian like kids show, is that true, or was that just propaganda?
I know most of the things that they ever declared were a thing either didn't exist at all, or they were misrepresenting what the usefulness of it was. So if they were transitioning mice or not, I don't remember. I hope they were.
They were not.
Okay, I
They
hope
were
they
not.
were,
It was-
or I hope there's something you could represent as was, because the fact of the matter is we do medical testing on animals. So maybe we need to stop that if we're going to talk about it unilaterally. But we do have citizens who are trans, and should we or should we not check whether or not medications for trans people are safe? If we have citizens, should we be finding out if their medications are safe or not?
Yeah, I think we should, but like.
So then you would
my
be in support of
personal
transitioning mice in that scenario, if that meant testing on mice to find out if it was safe for humans.
Yeah, but I'm not, my personal beliefs, like I myself do not think a human should transition gender unless they like are in pain, like mental pain. But
so let's just,
you know what I mean.
Let's go with first of all, mental pain. Who decides whether they are or aren't on mental pain? Isn't that a thing of like, if you are depressed, should you be the person who reports that you're depressed and then get treatment for it? Or should you have to go and convince a panel of non-medical, non-psychological experts that you are depressed before you get treated for depression?
No, you should not have to you should not do that. You have
so why don't
if you feel you're depressed, you should go.
So why don't we allow trans people to be also in charge of their own psychological state and to seek out from medical professionals whatever the best medical treatment would be for them in that scenario?
Kind of got me. I'm not gonna lie, you got me there.
Look, and I hear you that you're worried because you've probably heard other propaganda that people are doing it willy-nilly. Nobody's doing it willy-nilly. Nobody, to put very crassly, nobody looks at their penis and goes, I don't care whether it's there or not. I like that it's there, but I think I'd be more popular if I got that thing modified, and then just goes and does it for the gram, right? It's not, this is a very personal thing with people. And by the way, it is such a small group of people. It's a small group of people who consider themselves transgender, and an even smaller group who do any significant level of medical transition. And yet they are pretending this is the biggest issue in the world. And all we have done is, by making it the biggest issue, is made sure to hurt them more and not give them access to care. But your day-to-day life, Hayden, has not gotten better because other people now can't transition or can't have on their birth certificate whatever they want.
Yeah. And Hayden, when we provide care to people, for the trans community, for the LGBTQ community, when we provide care that is supportive of whatever their preferences are without judgment, we also increase the likelihood of them staying with us for longer. When we strip those services away, the rate of suicide for that community drastically goes up. So it's, you know, like we were talking about the example of depression. If this is what will keep them on this earth, then I don't really understand why anyone else.
I agree.
Yeah, like it shouldn't be anybody else's intervention. There shouldn't be any other intervention aside from what they discuss with their doctor, which would be the care professional who knows their all of their health information and can give them the best options.
Yeah.
But let's definitely transition mice. I do want to make sure that I've made it clear that I am for that.
It also, what they were actually studying was transgenic mice, which was like a DNA. It was a DNA study on mice, so it had nothing to do with transgender people. It was just looking at DNA in mice. And Trump misspoke, as he often does, and said transgender mice, which was not what was happening.
I don't know. There's a whitehouse.gov website that claims it now. I'm teasing.
Is there?
Yeah. If you go to whitehouse.gov/ what is it? It's something crazy because this is what the website is now.
I also there's on the website, there's a thing, it says fake news CNN, like postering it there. Yeah. That's just hateful. I do not agree with that.
Anti-First Amendment too.
It is very, and on the first day when he was at the stadium, he signed a thing saying the First Amendment will be restored. Just
okay. So look, by the way, I'm just going to look at, there was the transgenic mice thing. The reason why I never go like that for sure wasn't the thing, and I try to hedge my bets, is It wouldn't have surprised. You could probably find things, and this is on their website, so I'm not trusting that these are true either. However, these do sound like the kinds of studies we do. You could represent it poorly that way, and I'm still okay with it if they happen. But apparently, there was $455,000 to a mouse model to test the effects of gender-affirming hormone therapy on HIV vaccine-induced immune responses. I hope that that's true. I hope that.
Right.
But again, the people who are reading this are just like, fuck trans people. I want them to die of HIV. Like that's what
I don't wish. You should never wish death upon anyone. Many like trans people, they're like Republican. In a group.
Then don't vote Republican. Democrats, people just die because they're too busy patting themselves on the back for the the few sick kids they actually helped, and ignore the rest of the thing. Republicans actively try to kill people they don't like. Like that's what their policies do.
I don't think every Republican candidate wants to kill off a certain group minority.
I agree.
Anyone
there was
that
about
runs for
3
any party
Republicans
can do
who didn't vote against the Medicaid cuts. I think it was. Those 3 maybe are not, but literally the big beautiful bill cut Medicaid to people who need it. By 2034, what was it? 11 million people and counting, going up. Some estimates are that high, but by 2034 it'll be 11 million for sure. Are going to lose their coverage. So Medicaid healthcare is not, even in our country, we know it's not about like, oh, you have Medicaid. I bet you're abusing it by like going to the doctor and getting an extra prostate. You're going for recreational prostate exams. It's literally to live, to be alive. There's not a lot of, it's not full of people with Munchausen's and hypochondria just spending all of your money.
Right. Well, and also when people are on Medicaid, the healthcare that they're receiving is oftentimes terrible. Like if you think that it's a long time to get in,
people get the best Medicare.
They get the best care for sure.
Yeah.
And if you are on a government subsidized healthcare plan, many times these doctors are super booked. We were talking earlier about how you would have to schedule an appointment 6 months in advance, and that's if you have like health insurance that you're paying out of pocket for, that you got in the marketplace or through your job. When you have Medicaid, it is so much worse. It is so much worse. And you're also going into areas that are like crowded a lot of time. I don't know. This was my experience when I had Medicaid, because I had that coming out of the pandemic, and I felt like every area I went to, it was like super inconvenient, really hard to find. The doctors were like in weird buildings. Like the whole experience showed me how much, if I didn't believe it before, my God, did I believe it now, that I don't really understand what they're talking about when they're saying that people are scamming healthcare. Like Jimmy said, for what? People just want to be well, and why shouldn't they? And also, there's still limits within Medicaid. Like, you can't go and get a checkup every week if you want to and have that covered. Like, they're very strict on what you are allowed to do in a year. So, it doesn't make sense in practice, but what ends up happening is Republicans like to have they've created this conversation that the poor people in this country are freeloaders and that they don't work, and they're taking advantage of the people who are middle class or people who are in the upper class, that money is going to trickle down to everyone beneath them. That's literally never happened. That's never happened. And the whole narrative is that poor people are just like waiting around for handouts. And in reality, that's never been the case. These are people who just want to be able to like go to the dentist and get their annual checkup, or when they are sick or their kid is sick, be able to go and be seen. And I don't understand how that is taking advantage of the system.
I mean, Republicans have blocked every step of the way of dental care being categorized as medical care. That's what you need to know about Republicans and their understanding. Granted, they think the earth is 6,000 years old, so maybe they don't know that the teeth are a part of the body. I don't fucking know. Hayden, what would you say, if we just wanted to do one more before you go, what is the best Trump policy?
I'm going to say this is a tough one. I'm gonna say the canceling the Paris, like getting out of there, save some
Why?
money. I just think we didn't need to be there. I think Europe should focus on that. I think our Earth is going to be fine.
Why do you think that?
I mean, right now it looks like it's fine. So
Hayden,
unless
it's
something
not.
drastically
Hayden.
changes.
Okay, so I'm going to give you
Yes.
a very brief sort of world history lesson on this because it really isn't.
Yeah.
Hayden, how old are you, if you don't mind?
I'm actually I'm 14. I'm just
Okay.
calling because
It's all good.
for like because I'll be able to vote. I'll be able to vote in the next election. So I just want to like get to know politics more. You know.
So here's the crazy thing. I'm 35. I'm 21 years older than you.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm not old, but I'm not young, right? And here's the deal. I've seen the climate change. And this is the thing that is crazy to me, is that I know everybody older than me has noticed too, that the storms have gotten worse. The summers have gotten worse. People who lived where I live in Texas 10 years ago were like, I've lived here my whole life. Summers were only unbearable starting about 10 years ago. You could survive them. Like, it is happening while the global averages are happening decimal points at a time. In the local places where the biggest effects are happening, they aren't by a decimal point. It's not only going up by a decimal. The first summer I was here, we had over 100 days above 100 degrees with zero rain in a row, over 100 days of that in a row for the summer. I literally watched animals. I'm not joking. Where I was living at the time in Texas, just north of Austin, I would watch animals fall out of trees dead from heat exhaustion and heat stroke. Birds, you'd have to remove dead birds from your backyard. There was like any given day, you might see a wild hog just dead on the side of the road, turning to leather basically because it was happening so fast. But also on top of that, as far as like your world economies and everything goes, when you talk about the volatility in a lot of places where there's a lot of violence overseas in the Middle East, they are along these lines where droughts have been longer and hotter and worse, and droughts drive poverty. The number one indicator of radicalization and violence is poverty. Climate change is literally responsible, in part, America's done a very good part of it too, for increased amounts of violence, increased amount of radicalism. So when you say Europe should handle all of that over there, America is getting all of the consequences, including if you're for fiscal responsibility and our tax dollars not having to be wasted and all of that, the amount of that we are pumping into the air, because people will go, oh, America's bad, but China's worse. Why do you think China is cooking the planet so much? That smoke, those greenhouse gases that are going into the environment over there are from manufacturing for American consumerism. The Chinese contribution to global climate change is largely from America consuming. We just moved it over there. We're polluting their air instead of ours, and we're adding from over there instead of ours. Every step of the way, it's already getting worse. The thunderstorms, the frequency of tornadoes, the billions of dollars spending on more and more. When Hurricane Andrew happened in the 90s, that was the biggest fucking hurricane in decades. We thought it was because that was like the first, like, oh, wow, every now and then you get a giant hurricane like this, but you hear about one. It may even be less often than that. It might be every 50 to 100 years. We've now had several since that one. I think it was 1990, somewhere between 96 and 98. We've had like 10 more Hurricane Andrew sized hurricanes in just those 20 years. Since then, we actually, I lived in Louisiana. We moved away 2 months before Hurricane Katrina hit at the area where we lived. It is already happening.
I would like to add one more thing. I'm not one of those delusional freaks that doesn't think global warming exists. I know it exists. It's there. I don't think we should be worried. I do think we should be worrying about it, but I don't think we need to make a pact for it. I think we should all focus on it ourselves, trying to make it better by turning ourselves greenhouse gases, making less of those and stuff like that. I don't think we should just ignore it until it dumps on us.
The biggest contribution for the damage to our climate is on a corporate scale. So even if every single person decided that they were all going to switch to plastic straws and electric vehicles, which is not really possible, like it's not really feasible to get this amount of people on board with changes like that, we
100%.
still would be making the tiniest dent in the damage that's being created on a corporate level, which is why it's important that we have other policies in place, because the corporations have to be held responsible. So what's happening a lot, Hayden, and you'll see now that we tell you this, you'll see it all the time. There's this pattern of shifting the responsibility to the consumer. So what should be happening is the bulk of the damage is being done on the corporate scale. It's being done at an exponential level than a consumer could ever be responsible for. And then they'll tell us, as the consumers, that we need to use paper straws. We need to reduce the amount of plastic that we use in our homes. We need to be mindful of the clothing that we buy and discard, which all of these things are true. And it's important that we do those things just to be kind to the earth and be like a little bit less impactful. But then you have companies that are discarding millions and millions of pounds of clothes into landfills that they created and aren't going to sell. So then what difference does it make if I, as an individual, have decided to donate my clothes instead of throw them away, if there's a company that's going to have millions and millions of pounds of clothing that they're going to create into like this garbage island? So that's why the policies are important, because we can do what we can, as consumers, but the real change has to happen on a systematic level.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Was your biggest problem with the Paris Accords being that it was European? You feel like it's the EU,
Yeah.
but if the whole world came together and did something, would you be for that?
Yeah, I would be for that, because
Cool.
if the
Just
whole
so you know,
world,
that's what
if the
happened.
whole,
That's what happened.
yeah, if the
bud.
whole world wants to wait, the whole world was in it.
How
I'm not
many-
really educated in that.
How many countries do you think that are recognized to exist in the world?
A lot of pretty much every country that's on the geography map that's printed
Right.
on the map. Normal
It's generally
map
accepted that
everyone
there's
uses.
197.
Yep.
Okay. How many countries do you think joined the Paris Accords? Do you
I'd
think
say
it was
half
just
of
the
that.
EU?
No, I'd say EU, Middle East, and parts of Asia.
195 of 197 countries signed the Paris Accords. So whoever told you this is a European thing, it's called the Paris Accords because they signed them in Paris.
Honestly, I don't. Now you explain. I appreciate you explaining this to me. Trump's a terrible person.
Yep.
And now let's just see from 4 years' time how our country turns out. If it's bombed to the ground, or if we're still alive and doing well.
Yeah.
By the way, you
Well,
might
yeah.
still be alive and doing well, and others might not be.
I
Let's not just
know
look at
that.
for our own personal selves. Let's look at how,
Yep.
because right now, if I'm looking around at just the people who have been hurt so far, that's enough to want them out. I posted this on Threads, and I genuinely believe it. The American Revolution was fought over less.
I appreciate you guys enlightening this for me. I was like blinded pretty much. I bought a MAGA ad because I like the hype, and I just didn't look. I should have researched it more.
Community's appealing too. And right now, if you are
Yeah.
a young man, you're going to be more accepted in a MAGA community than a lot of other communities. And that, unfortunately, is a thing that the left needs to work on. Because as much as we are mad at white dudes, we have to make room for them and make them want to be there. And unfortunately, I'm an atheist who's been fighting on behalf of getting people out of religion. I've understood for a long time that a people's perception of their community matters more than whether their community is right. And that's a lesson that the left kind of needs to go. And it has to be like, we need to be right and an appealing place for people to be.
Yeah. I think religion and politics should not be connected together at all. It's just messy.
I get it.
It
Hayden,
is messy.
We're at a half hour. So if you do want to call back and talk about why you're a theist, do that on another day. But you were pleasant to chat with and you honestly engaged. And I liked that a lot.
Yeah. Thank you for calling. And also, it's, Hayden, really admirable that you were able to be on this call and say, I actually don't know anything about that. Can you tell me about that? Never lose that part of you, because that will you will be the most knowledgeable person in the room, because you're going to continue to ask questions, and that's going to be so important. And I commend you so much for doing that. And you were a great call. Call back anytime.
Thanks,
you.
All right, you guys have a great day, great weekend. Happy July 4th.
I have the highest hopes for you. Thanks, Hayden.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.
Okay, I love Hayden.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I feel like Hayden's got a much more positive future than a lot of the people who call here. But
Yeah, I mean, doing that at 14 is insane. He's asking questions that I wasn't at 14. I mean, obviously like the political climate is so different now, but for him to even say like I bought the hat because I just like liked the hype around it.
yeah.
Being honest about that is going to take him way further in general in life than his the people around him who are not willing to do that. So
Can I tell you something so funny and undermine how smart people might think I am? I thought
Yeah,
he said
tell me.
because I like to hike, and I thought he was just describing that he needed a hat for hiking, and thought MAGA's that'll work. So
Oh my god. That's so funny.
Which is funny because I
guess
then responded with like kind of a hype argument. So luckily that lined up. They were unrelated.
it worked out. It
Yeah.
worked out. You were like, and you can find community in hiking, and you can also find community in politics.
It weirdly worked out. Weirdly.
It did.
It took care of
Sapphic
itself.
Hazard said, I think at 14 my questions involved PlayStation versus Nintendo. Like that's what I'm saying. At 14, I was not paying attention. And I'm happy and proud of him because he is paying attention.
Yeah. Hey Nate, it's good to see
He
you.
wants to learn.
Nate's in the chat. All right,
Hello.
let's head over to Greg. We're gonna be wrapping up pretty soon here, so these won't be terribly long calls. But Greg in Michigan, you are on the line with Jimmy and Alyssa. How are you?
Hey, you guys. Thanks for taking my call.
Yeah.
Jimmy, very erudite, and listen, nice to hear you guys talk. The first-time caller, real quick, let me give you a little bit of my history.
Could you first tell me
I'm
what
known as Mr.
erudite means? Because I don't know.
Very informative. The way you broke down tariffs and deficits was fantastic.
Is that word spelled with an E? I had a different word in my head. Is that ERUDITE? That's how it's pronounced.
Yes, sir.
I don't think I've heard it said out loud. I was thinking ARRODITE. Once again, undermining the intelligence people might think I possess. Yeah. I guess I've never seen that. I've never seen that said out loud.
I like your thought process. Let me tell you real quick who I am. I'm known as Mr. Positive. I'm on Detroit radio, national radio, and TV.
That's cool.
I talk to Chris Cuomo quite often, and I've been on his show quite often. And
would you like me to keep my opinions to myself so you keep getting invited?
No. But real quick, Jimmy, what is your last name? I'm calling from Michigan, and I don't have a...
Snow.
Are you on Facebook or anything of that nature? Or?
I'm everywhere, baby.
I listen to Matt all the time.
Jimmy Snow is
Jimmy
who I am.
Snow?
Yeah. In any meaningful way that you need to find me.
Okay. Very good.
Like a bastard from the north.
You know, pardon? Yes.
It's a Game of Thrones
from
reference.
Michigan.
Yeah. No. I was saying Game of Thrones, a person whose last name is Snow is a bastard from the north. And so I'm Jimmy Snow, a bastard from the north.
I never watched that.
Oh,
but
that's all good.
You are, I love your thoughts on Trump. I believe that we need unity. We have so much division. And I've got to ask both of you, do you think the media is culpable in our division? And the reason I'm saying this is because obviously I'm a Randian, and the gentleman from Australia was a libertarian, and I believe in the philosophy of Ayn Rand, and I've read, quite a bit of philosophy and stuff like that. But when we talk about the media, we talk about narrative, and we talk about narrative that is driven by profit. If there was only one truth, you would not need 30 political shows, from CNN, MSNBC, and Fox and all that stuff. So do you think that they are causing the division? And do you think that Trump is a major player in this division? Yesterday, when he was at his, in Idaho, he said he actually hated the Democrats. Now, I hope people let that resonate and it germinates in their brain as to, we have a president that is supposed to be for our nation as a whole, not divisive. Oh, the Democrats stink. They're no good. Screw them. Blah, blah, blah. Do we really need that type of president? And I mean, I hear you, berate Trump, and in essence, I have to agree with you that the man is so much hyperbole. I don't think he's ever read a book. That's just, he has some good points in the sense of let's keep illegal immigrants out of our country. Let's do the process of law. You articulated that earlier, Jimmy, about what makes this nation great, and you articulated laws, and there are a lot
I would describe already, we might divert on something, though, because the concept of illegal immigration I find to be, if you want to say a good point would be, let's keep people who are here illegally out. First of all, I would say it's crazy that they're here illegally, and the idea that America should be so gatekeeping so strictly, especially against certain nations over other nations, I think goes against what makes America great. I'm one of the leftists who actually would support a positive version of
then I've got to ask you,
open
Jimmy,
borders.
Then I've got to ask you, then what makes a nation? A country, doesn't it have to arguably have borders? What defines a nation? Yes, I know it's the amalgamation. It's a melting pot. But
was America a nation back when you could just come in through Ellis Island, you signed a paper, and then you were there? It was still a country then. We're not saying that geographically here isn't where America is. And we're also not saying open borders means don't vet anybody who comes over the border. It's about making the process so much simpler, so much quicker. And even they're recognizing that now, because you saw Trump down in Florida yesterday talking about how they're going to come up with this much simpler thing where these people who, I don't know how he's getting away with it. His base, if you had asked his base last week, if somebody snuck in and they've been here illegal for 15 years, is there any condition under which you would let them stay? They'd be like, no, that means they've been breaking the law for 15 years. And yet, what did he say yesterday? We're going to let farmers take responsibility for the illegal immigrants they've had working their farms for the last 15 years. And we're going to let those people stay, not as citizens, but as workers. We're going to let them keep them. So because Trump has said it, suddenly this thing that a week ago they would have thought, no, definitely not, under no condition. Suddenly it's okay among some of them. Obviously, they do have their crazies who don't like that he's even letting people come in on high skill visas and the like. But it's, I guess my immigration policy would not look anything like a Republican or a Democrat's at all. It would be a very leftist policy and a recognition that borders are something we should eventually be working toward not having. But obviously we don't live in that world yet. But we can be making steps in that direction. Instead, we're making harder borders, and we seem to be using it to maintain an economic system where the illegal labor is extremely cheap labor that the billionaires can benefit off of, because if we do legalize their existence, we can't treat them quite so poorly.
Understood. Point well taken. Wow. A lot to digest. If you will, getting off on a little bit of a tangent, what are some of your favorite authors? And Alyssa, who do you like to read?
The book I thought of when you were asking what makes a nation, I'm trying to remember who wrote it. Have you read the book Sapiens?
Of course I have.
Okay, then the answer is mythology. Literally common accepted mythology. Governments are myths, right? At every level, governments are myths. And we are all agreeing. So literally a nation is that which we all agree is a nation, because patriotism is a mythology. It's all a myth. And so that's my answer to what makes a nation is we all agree where the nation is. It's common. If we all die tomorrow, does America exist? Fuck no, it doesn't. And to most living creatures, America's doesn't exist. There is a human element purely to it. There isn't a single bird that flies across the border that worries immigration's am I allowed to cross this border? It is a purely human mythology that we have created, and we've all accepted.
And I like your term, myth and mythology, because myth and mythologies are didactic, and they teach virtues and they teach morality. And that's why everyone should read myths and, Joseph Campbell, because it does have merit intellectually, morally, spiritually, and it makes you grow. And that's what a mythos would arguably. Alyssa, who are your favorite authors?
I read a lot of like fiction or things related to my work, which is in sex education. So I don't really know that I have a favorite author. I don't read a lot of philosophy. I find it, I like feel like my eyes cross when I'm reading it. I'm like, I don't know what's going on. I probably should.
When I was right wing, I
me-
pretended to like Orwell, having never read it, and now that I'm leftist, I've
Right.
actually read Orwell and like it.
Yeah.
Okay.
That one's nice.
Alyssa, you said sexual education. Have you ever
Yes.
heard of the SSE, same-sex experience? And would you say, I've read a couple books on it, that why someone might turn to like the same sex? In the sense of SSE, same-sex experience.
I've
and
only ever
thank you
heard of
for,
SSA, like same-sex attraction,
Yeah, I don't know
which
what
is
SSE.
it's usually a dog whistle for homophobia. I don't know. I've not heard of SSE.
Well, in the sense is that someone becomes, I don't know how to phrase it, political. I mean, what is acceptable, because I believe that everyone should live their own lives and be whoever they want to be. But is it because they relate, let's say growing up, and they feel that I have a male friend and I get along with this male friend and they understand me? Do you think that germinates into something that might be, same sex? That could be either male or female.
No,
Okay.
because we understand the difference between friendships and intimate relationships, and you can have a deep, lifelong friendship with a person who sees you and understands you and relates to you, and you don't want to fuck them. So the difference is the sexual attraction, and that I suspect, and I mean this in like a kind of serious way. I suspect that most people are probably able to have sexual attraction to the same sex if they did not feel so inundated with the ideology that they are not meant to. I think that I
Wow.
know that
Nice.
human beings we are sexual beings. We have sex for
Yes.
pleasure. Why? And to some degree, not to be crass, but a hole's a hole. And I think that like we make it cute and we say like, oh, I have a girl crush or whatever, but like that is recognizing a sexual attraction in one way or another. And I think that we feel scared and we feel not so interested in wanting to like delve into that. But I think that if more people had the
Alyssa.
opportunity and freedom to explore it, I think we all are
Yes.
probably like pansexual and just haven't found
Alyssa,
space for that yet.
Brilliantly said. You are right. Society puts a stigma on you if you like the same sex, and you're spot on about that. Hey, you guys, thanks for taking my call. Mr. Positive wants everyone to go for their dreams, become the best that you can become. And Jimmy Snow, I'm going to look you up. My name's Gregory Balteff, B like boy, Alteff like Frank. Try to find me on Facebook. I'm not anywhere else, but I'd really like to. I like your thoughts. I like your cogent thinking. You're very epistemologically sound, and you have a great organization and stuff. And likewise, Alyssa. So you guys keep on being you, and tell Matt Dillahunty that I said hi, and you guys be good to yourself and have a nice 4th and be safe.
Cool. Call back next time I'm on and we're doing a God show, because I want to know why you believe in God.
I really don't, but I read so much different points of view that I feel that this is such a concept that involves physics, philosophy. It can involve so many disciplines, whether it be hard science, soft science, psychology, and I'm very well versed in many disciplines. and I just hear people come at me because they know that I'm a Randian. They know that I believe in what Matt Dillahunty brings to the forefront, how it brings. His biggest thing for Matt is demonstrate that God exists. Demonstrate. Yeah, supernatural. I've been following him for 25 years. We got into it with Thomas Sowell, Ayn Rand, and a host of other people like that. And all of a sudden, he just stopped talking to me. But if he looks back on my...
That's all between you guys. Yeah. I'm not going to litigate that here. All right, well, cool.
No, it's all
Greg, good. If you have some theological stuff, bring that back in next time. We'll talk about that more. And
you betcha, buddy.
And maybe I'll look more into this same-sex experience thing, because the whole time I was just trying to figure out, is Greg coming out on the air? Greg, when you coming out? Greg, you good? It's all good if you are.
I've lived the life of a rock star. I'm good. I'm happy for everybody. And I mean, I'm a huge Elvis fan. And you guys take care of yourself.
But are you an Elvis fan or are you an Elvis fan is what I was asking. No, I'm just kidding. All right.
No,
all right, thanks,
he's a twin. I'm a twin. He's the reason I want to change the world for the better. All right. And you guys take care of yourselves and be good to yourselves. And
thanks,
God bless, or whatever. But yeah, that's just a nice but be good to yourselves. Right, bye, you guys.
Bye. I liked Greg.
I don't know. I was very confused by the whole thing, but it's all good. These seem nice. These seem wanting to get to know us a little bit.
Yeah.
What is this SSE thing? It sounds
I'm curious about that. Yeah, the more that I get into the sex education space, the more I'm like, I think everyone has the capability to be pan. Like, I think that, sure. I mean, human beings just like to put things into categories so much.
I do think that there's probably I think that most people probably do, if they lived in a world without stigmas, I think most people would still fall more on one side or another. They would more often find, because even amongst like people I am attracted to, like obviously I'm pansexual, but it's the group of men I'm attracted to far more limited than the group of women I'm attracted to. But then even amongst like that, there's your attraction to a person isn't even only gender. And so the spectrum is 3D, certainly. But then when it comes to the gender thing, I still think a person will fall, but I think the stigma would remove where maybe men would make their loneliness a lot of their problem, because they'd realize it's cool if they and their buddies just blow each other when they're lonely. Like,
right. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, we might naturally still choose partners that are like in the heterosphere. Yeah. Like, but I think that people would have more complex and nuanced relationships with all genders, and I think whether they're would be boning or not.
Confused too when Tom Hardy's like, no, I'm straight, but yeah, I've had gay sex a few times. You know, it's a thing you do. You try it out, and it's literally like, and I was fine. I found out it wasn't for me, and I survived. It was okay. I had an okay enough time, but I was like, you know what? I'd rather have some titties. Like, that's fine.
Right.
You're allowed. Right. You're allowed. But maybe if you guys would just start blowing each other, you'd stop fucking annoying the shit out of everybody else and voting for Andrew Tate, who is never going to get you laid and doesn't care if you actually get laid.
Yeah.
All right. I love that snoring pup. Dave in California, you are the last caller today. You are on with Jimmy and Alyssa.
All right. Well, I do want to start out by saying that I am wearing a particularly adorable oyster shirt, so I believe that I have purchased the right to say I want to speak to Alyssa first, and Jimmy can shut the butt up.
All right, fair enough.
That's really funny.
But that is my merch. Just pointing out.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I bought the right from you to talk to Alyssa first.
There you go. I'll do my best. I'll even mute, so I'd have to physically make a change.
Alyssa, I did just want to say thank you so much for donating to my book fund. And also, since the last time we spoke, my partner and I turned that Billy Joel essay that I sent you into a video essay, which is on my page. So I'd love to send that to you as well. And I still have your email, so I can just send that to you. Yeah.
Please do.
My boyfriend is from Long Island.
Yeah, my boyfriend is from Long Island and he plays piano, so he loves Billy Joel so much, and he loved the Billy Joel essay so much. So you have to send me the video.
So my partner and I recorded just me reading the essay, and my partner took it and made the whole video thing because she's way better at the video editing stuff than I am. But I wanted to send that to you. I wanted to give you a heads up that I wanted to share that there was an evolution of the Billy Joel "What is a Woman" essay.
I love it. I love
it. So now, Jimmy, please join the conversation. I wanted to address it.
I refuse. No, go ahead.
No, the reason why I called was specifically because while you were talking to that weird Australian dude, you mentioned something about remembering what was happening 20 years ago. And that sparked something in me because today, being the 4th of July, is a really, really rough day for me. It's a huge PTSD. Actually, you know what? I'm going to roll with that. PTSD. It's a huge PTSD for me because of the boom booms.
Sure.
I don't do well with them. And you were talking about with that guy about remembering the same blood for oil arguments that sent us into the Middle East 20 years ago about lying about WMDs. And myself,
I think I was
as somebody
more
who
talking,
was there,
yeah, the WMD thing. You're right. Yeah.
As somebody who was there, who spilled my blood for that particular lie, watching it now is something that's been keeping me up at night, for real. I'm sitting here worrying about the idea that we're going to create a whole nother generation of veterans when I've been on a different kind of front line for the last decade, trying to protect and preserve the benefits and care that veterans receive, and watching our commander-in-chief just erode, attack, and degrade those protections and benefits. So we're about to create a whole new generation of veterans, and the safety net that we pretend exists there for them to catch them when they fall is going to be gone.
Yeah. And the thing I would even tell you is, I'm going to say something that's going to sound not helpful at first, but actually weirdly it, for me, becomes helpful. Stop worrying about it and accept that that is going to happen. And now start preparing as though it is going to. Because I wouldn't spend another moment on the angst of like, are we just going to kill more of our own, young men?
Roger.
And yeah, we are.
We are.
Sure. Yep.
We are. No. But
for rich people.
Is the fact, right? But I'm not so much worried about are we going to do that. I'm trying to fight for the benefits and protections of them.
Sure.
And right now, those are under attack, and not a whole lot of people are paying attention to that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I would say the number one thing anyone can do, obviously you have local charities and in specific charities, and then from a broad political spectrum, acknowledge that the Democrats have not been good enough on this either, and advocate for genuine leftist policy and support genuine leftist candidates, and stop voting for Band-Aids when we need stitches, because that's maybe putting it lightly.
That's one of the things that pisses me off the most is when somebody says, thank you for your service. And I want to say, you want to thank me for my service? Stop voting for the people who are destroying my benefits.
Yeah, I don't think and it's not a thing against veterans. There are some who, if I knew the specifics, I probably would be like, yo, good job. I'm glad you did that. But I actually come from a military family, and even my conservative dad was like, it's weird to do that. It's weird when I get it. And my dad was in the military. It's weird when I did it, and it's weird to do in general, because a lot of the people you're thanking, I love when it's like, oh, you go thank him for his service. And it's like that. I know that guy. He played video games he didn't leave the country. He played video games the whole time. No, that guy got sent to fucking Cheyenne, Wyoming to be security forces because he failed his exams and he had either the choice of that or going back home to his parents. He wasn't even, anyway.
Yeah, we called those fobbits.
Yeah.
We called those fobbits.
Yeah. And there's a lot of them. It's I don't know. It's one of those things where it's like, it's weird to have a compulsive directive to thank people for their service that are in a system that is first of all voluntary and second of all predatory. It's kind of like
you and I can talk all damn day about how the volunteer service relies on poverty. Like that is 100% something you and I are going to agree
on. The military runs like
I don't want to take too much more of your time because I know I am the last call, but I will say if you do want to thank a veteran for your service, I've written a book, The Things They Buried. I've got a GoFundMe. Alyssa did, thankfully, that was something I just shared with her in email.
We'll probably cut it there, though,
she did donate to my book fund.
As far as self-promotion stuff goes, we got to. Yeah, I got you. Because we aren't vetting it. We do limit the amount of people. We get invites every day. I get emails every day of like, please take care of my GoFundMe.
I'm not going to drop the link. I'm not going to. I'm not going to drop the link. I'm just going to say my goal is to lift veterans' voices. The ultimate goal of my book is to take whatever I make from it to create a publication company to give other veterans a chance to tell their story. I'm not going to say drop the link. I'm not going to ask for that. I am just going to ask for that last word of this is what I want to do with my life.
Cool. Thanks, Dave.
Thanks, Dave.
I think he hung up before he said goodbye. Goodbye, Dave.
Maybe.
All right.
Goodbye.
Good enough. And we'll have the sound that indicates the lines are closed. We're going to head over to Super Chats and then call it a goddamn day. I'm going to head to a block party, I believe.
Ooh, that's nice.
Block party, my brothers. Let's see. Probably there in about an hour.
That's nice. We already did my little family barbecue. And I think tomorrow I'm going to go sit by the pool, my brother's pool. And that's going to be my whole weekend. It'll be very chill. It's not, like I said, not feeling very patriotic. I don't think any of us are. So
let me also message and find out how long this thing's going as we get started into there. You want to read the first one?
Sure.
I believe this was created to make me uncomfortable.
Okay. $5 from Zurith Moonpaw. Jimmy Snow is the best, most wonderful content manager on YouTube. He has great hair and kind eyes. He never makes any mistakes.
Well, half of that's right. The hair part and my eyes are what I've always, that's been my dating
kind
strategy.
Eyes.
I don't know about kind,
that's
but
sweet.
Piercing.
They're pretty.
Mm-hmm.
They're pretty.
Mm-hmm. They pierce. All right, let's see. J-Lock says, love y'all and everything you do. Did you know The Lion has a podcast? Alyssa, do you have any advice for finding and vetting a sex or life coach?
I would look for any certifications that they might have. But also, sometimes it just is the right kind of person who's going to say the right things to you. And there's going to be people who are maybe really good at their job, but what they're saying is not going to land. So have calls, like consultation calls with as many people as you can. You can also, if you're looking specifically for someone who works in sexuality, I would recommend going to asect.org, AASECT.org, and you can check people there. You can also look for the American Board of Sexology and find some recommendations there too. You can even go through some of the people I follow because I follow quite a few of them.
Cool.
Yeah.
This one's all you.
Oh, $5 from Zurith Moonpaw. Alyssa, can you explain the alphabet trick of cunnilingus? Because I recently heard that, and honestly, I have no idea what it means. So it's like a thing that people say you can do where you do each letter of the alphabet when you are giving oral sex to a vulva or to a clitoris.
I feel like that's super duper like an intro to cunnilingus move, because I feel like then with time, like it's probably a good way to get started, but with time, what you actually should be learning is what the specific, call it, somebody might like the whole alphabet, but frankly, if you would just repeat J, N, and R, that's their like good ones, you got to find then which letters are the best letters.
Yes.
Or techniques are the best techniques. You're really limiting yourself there if you're just doing the, some people like you to go a little further south a little bit.
I also just, I feel like good old classic up and down, side to side circle. Like you don't need to do like an H, it's like sometimes that's not what we need. But you're right. Maybe it's a good way to explore.
Renegade Sapper says, "What's with this we shit? He isn't we in Australia." Yeah, I know. That whole call was confusing. I'm libertarian was one of the first things he said, and I'm not, and not libertarian is one of the last things he said.
Yeah, I'm actually glad that I didn't engage with him at all, because I thought it wasn't worth it, and I felt it wasn't worth it, and you know what? It wasn't worth it. $5
Maybe he was like accelerationist leftist, where he's like, I think everything should be awful and we should basically go full fascist right now, so then we can get communityism. I don't know.
I don't fucking know. $5 from Untitled Final V2 this version. # Team Lux 3 trolling Arden. LOL. I think Arden was in the chat.
One before. That was just the word test.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Whoa.
Oh, that's all good. By the way, you just add to the queue. I can send them to, just if you'll just add new ones that come in the middle screen. I'm talking to the producer people. You don't need to do anything on the right screen because I'm doing that from my computer. 100 very generous dollars from Jay Shawa says, thanks for doing this on the 4th of July. The U.S. is in desperate need of a good birthday president. Maybe you meant present, but actually both kind of work.
Yeah.
In this way. Yeah. Yeah.
That's really generous. Thank you so much.
You're the best. Around. There you go. This one's for you.
$5 from Untitled Final V2 this version. If poor people don't want to be poor, they can pull themselves up by their bootstraps. Sarcastic. Yeah. I know.
Somebody pointed this out the other day, and I'm going to be repeating it and stealing this point a lot. Think about the phrase, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. How would you do that? Literally, physically. The whole point of pulling yourself up by your bootstraps, it was an ironic phrase because you can't pull yourself up by your bootstraps. How would you get off of the ground by lifting your bootstraps? It's like, it's like, okay, I'm going to lift one leg and hold it up by the knee, and then I'll lift up the other leg and just do the same action, and now I'll be flying. Like, you literally can't lift yourself up by your bootstraps. So why is this the favorite Republican saying of, I just think people should do what's impossible? And I guess that's
you're
why.
Making an assumption, Jimmy, that people are and you're making an assumption that the Republicans are thinking through literally anything, that they've ever had a critical thought.
By the way, Untitled Final V2, this version, I can't make out what your actual thing is, but all I see is like white marble and then these steeple looking things. So to me, my brain instantly goes Mormon temple. Oh, is it a fork on granite?
It's a marble. It's granite or marble, and it's fork.
Luthien, were you getting Mormon temple vibes from that? Because I was. Oh, Luthien thought
from
it was
a distance, that's
forest.
What I thought it was too. I was like, those skinny trees. It looks like Twilight.
Weird. That white granite tacky ass look of all the temples is what I thought it was. Oh, apparently it's supposed to look a little temple-ish, maybe, because that's the super chat that came in. But we'll get to that one. This one's for you.
£2 from Nick Chivers. This is why Britain sent them to Australia. Yeah,
we'll go ahead and read these, but Luthien, we don't ever do anything under 5. Trump failed, said tariffs were at 1.5% on us in 2015, now 14.7 on average. Well, what changed much between 2015 and now? I wonder.
$10 from, is that Joshua? It's spelled very creatively, maybe. Oh God, he's 14. We are so cooked. No. We need to look at Hayden Calling being 14 as a really good thing because he's asking questions. He was open to a conversation. He was open to being wrong about the opinion that he came to the show with. So like, when he said he was 14, I was like, this is awesome because he's young and he has questions and he's not accepting the first answer at face value. He's wanting to actually have like a conversation about it. So
just in general, calling in a way of like, I'm going to listen to the response and not just be there to defend whether I have the facts or not. Whatever my community told me is very hopeful.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah. $20 from Nate the Lawyer. Hi again, Nate. Nate says, I got this notification, was like, hell yeah. Great to see you guys. Keep doing what you do. Much love to my brother Jimmy. Global warming is a thing. I don't know why people fight it, man. I don't know that. I don't know either, but it was nice. And there's a reason why now, I don't know if people have clocked it, but I generally ask more than, well, not more, but I try to, instead of being like hard point back, ask a person so they can create in their head the hole in their knowledge and then fill it. Because when he was like, I just feel like that's an EU thing, I went and looked up and I was like, wasn't it almost all of them? And yeah, it was literally 195 of the 197 countries. So that's why asking the question of, would you been more okay with it if it was something that the whole world did together? I mean, like, yeah, good. Just so you know, your side hasn't been telling you that that's what it was. Because it literally was everybody. Because it does. It kind of creates that moment of like, wait, how come I'm only learning this now? Like, if my side is so strong, why couldn't they have made the points acknowledging 195 countries did it first? Like, and that's kind of one of those things that you have to ask yourself is, if you're having a lot of arguments with people and they're making points that surprise you, you actually, even if you're happen to be on the right side of thing, it isn't because you're well-versed. As I said on the other show, and I'm going to keep saying, if you can't debate on behalf of the other side so efficiently that side's best people, or at least good enough people, you couldn't fool them as being one of their own, then you probably don't know that side well enough. It's a little harder with public figures because, like, if Matt was trying to pretend to be a theist, someone's going to recognize him. But if you couldn't do it in a place where if you were anonymous, you would blend in and no one would know from that side that you weren't one of them, then you don't know that side well enough. Anyway, the next one we have, this one's yours to read.
$5 from DaCosta. It's the Paris Accord, because that's where the documents were signed, not because it's a European issue.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think I made the same point. That I think your dog is trolling you. I think your dog is getting louder and louder.
I know. I agree that I think she's gotten louder, because even like when it never bothers me when I'm going to sleep. Well, now sometimes when I'm going to sleep, I'm like, you can't be serious. Like I literally like shift her around because I'm like, she's 8 pounds. I don't know how she's doing this.
Ever since my diet became so restricted, every now and then I get flash flavors in my mouth. Have I ever told you about this?
Oh, no.
Where suddenly for less than a second, I will have the very strong sensation, flavor, experience, temperature of just a flash, and then it's gone. And while you were saying that, for some reason, I had the flash experience of cold Papa John's pizza. Just like very quick, to the point where I had to think about, okay, what one was that? I was like thinking through it in my head. I was like, oh yeah, cold Papa John, like specifically cold Papa John's, day after, out of the fridge, double cheese, extra sauce, cold Papa John's pizza. Which of the pizzas that I'm gonna have a flash experience of, brain, you couldn't do me one better than that? Papa John's. Anyway,
I'll take it. I like a shitty pizza every once in a while.
Oh, I like Papa John's, but it's not the best pizza. There are bad pizzas I really like.
Me too. Like Domino's and like chain pizza. I live in New York. Like if I want pizza, I'll get pizza. But when I want Domino's or Papa John's, I'm not asking for pizza. I'm asking for Domino's and Papa John's. It's a different
thing. And some of that's childhood or expectations or whatever. Look, fact of the matter is every now and then I crave, because I ate so many of these as a kid. I want to go get a little square Totino's pizza, put a little tomato sauce on top of it, recovered in cheese, put new pepperonis on the top. I cook a pizza on top of my Totino's because that was my childhood comfort food. It was I take a 3-meat Totino's and that's the crust of the pizza I make.
That sounds delicious.
It's pretty good. And I crave that. I put a ton of and then you put a bunch of little bit of red pepper flakes and oregano on top, and then you burn the top just a little, enough to burn the oregano a little bit. The cheese gets a little bit crispy, but more the oregano, because the cheese underneath, everything that's under the new thing you put, that stuff's not going to be burnt. So now you've got this like crispy top and crispy bottom with this pizza and pizza-esque interior. I'm thinking about it.
I can tell how badly you want this based on how detailed you were.
Someone asked if this is a onesie. It's a cloak blanket, and it's so comfortable.
Obviously.
It's the most comfortable shit I own to wear. I'm thinking about getting more, and I will shout them out if they'll just fucking pay me to do so. But until they do, I'm not telling you where I got it.
A businessman.
I'm going to read all 4 of these from Untitled Final V2 in a row, just for the sake of time. First one, it won't germinate, bro, because Trump didn't tell his followers to germinate. That's funny. Passports are just another form of discrimination. That's true. The question is whether or not discrimination is ever justified. Clearly it is sometimes justified, but racial and ethnic discrimination isn't. But is it not? If I want to have a certain type of political event, is it not okay to discriminate against disruptive Republicans, for example? Or there are reasons to say, or if I want to have a company event, no people no people are welcome in the meeting that don't belong to the company. So discrimination in and of itself, the word by itself, is not automatically negative. However, obviously the cultural discrimination we've done and what it is most related to are some of our biggest human atrocities. But I hear you. Whether or not passports are, you could see a future world even without borders where passports would be useful, especially for myself, where if there still has to be a vetting process for travel of any kind, I assume most people do support that we have a no-fly list, even though it is overused. Being able to use that to make your time through shit more efficient. Obviously, we're okay with things that add efficiency, because I'm like all pissed off that I moved from a state where I could put my driver's license on my phone to one that I can't. Fucking assholes. That's like, why? Why can't I? You literally have a thing you can scan it with, and it'll check your system and it'll verify. You don't even need me to have a driver's license. And the fees that they give out, that's just a made up thing, because you can literally give them your name and birthday and they will find you in an instant. Right. And so even that is okay, but what if we add a method of pay? It's an extra tax essentially because you forgot your license at home. Fucking assholes. Anyway, Untitled also asked, where is Calasia? Are they okay? We did this very last minute. We didn't even put out like a thing for like, hey, we need mods or whatever, because I generally don't care that much about the shows that I'm on. I don't much worry as much about moderation, to tell you the truth. But we do, but I own the company and ultimately the most privileged from the company's perspective here. And so, what can people say? What insult can a person say about me in the live chat that is actually worse than something I've said to myself 3 inches from a mirror? Nothing. You got nothing. You can't do it.
I had exactly that conversation with a client recently.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Cool. Was I the client? I can't remember.
No, but he did a really good job of interrupting his negative thought pattern, and I'm really proud of him. So I know sometimes he listens to the line, and if he listens to the line, I'm still really proud of you if he listens to this episode.
I'm proud of you also.
Yeah.
And then they also asked, is Calasia okay? And I don't know. I don't even, what I just realized? I don't know that it's pronounced Calasia, because again, these are not things I say
I was
going to
say, yeah, I was like, I've never said their name out loud. So I was like, well, I've never thought about how to pronounce that.
Could be Calasia. I don't know. Someone said Jimmy smokes weed, so do I. I actually don't really these days, but I'm nothing against it. But I haven't had a THC product in like 2 years or so. I did try to see if it would help me sleep a while back, and there was some negative repercussions too. I have a like my sensitivity rapidly reduces if I start using something like way too fast. Like Benadryl. If I try to take Benadryl every night, it would only take a week or two before I would need to take 4 to get the effect.
Whoa, that's crazy.
I was having to take like 10 times as much as my friends take to get to sleep at night, THC wise. 5 to 10, maybe not always 10, but sometimes 10. And friends who have been using it a long time to sleep, I was having to take way, way more. And I was taking such a large amount of THC at night to fall asleep that I was actually having THC withdrawals during the day. Not anything life-threatening or anything, but where you just feel kind of shitty and unpleasant and negative, and kind of the same thing if you're addicted to candy, like where you don't feel happy until you have candy again. And so then at first I was like, maybe I'll just try a micro dose throughout the day. And that did kind of work for like a week. I would just like hit not enough to feel it, just enough for my brain to go, okay, there's some and you're good. But then it quickly just became basically I would feel shit all day until I would use it the night. So it just didn't work for me because I am not
slippery slope.
I'm not, if I could do just a moderate amount all day long, that would have even been okay, but I'm not a functional pothead. If I'm high, I'm snacking and I'm laying and I'm laughing at some movie that doesn't deserve it. I'm probably watching some old Seth Rogen, James Franco nonsense and just being like, oh, that's so funny. Oh, I wish he wasn't a pest.
I want to watch I Love You Man now. You talked about, I don't know why that reminded me. I love You Man. That none of those actors are in that movie, I don't think.
No, that's a good movie though. But Seth Rogen is directly connected to Jason Segel because they did Freaks and Geeks together. That's where they came up. So maybe that's the connection. As James Franco was in there too.
Jason Segel. Jason Segel is like one of my celebrity crushes, but I heard that he's really weird in real life, and I'm really like weird in like a gross way and like not in like a fun way, and I'm upset about it, but I'm hoping that was a lie, but I don't think it was.
I hope so too. I mean 90% of celebrity shit is somebody at least exaggerating, so celebrity stuff, it's
I hope that the story, I'm gonna choose to believe that story was completely made up because I don't want to. I need to preserve that he is great.
Obviously if somebody has credibly accused him of something like intense, we're not questioning that, but as somebody who has entire sections of the internet dedicated to people describing my personality in a way that nobody who knows me can recognize, and certainly I can't, you should know that things you hear about people online are mostly not true.
Text it to you later.
Okay.
Which, like, whatever, like, who knows? It's just gossip. But anyway, $10 from Michael Thoney. Reusable grocery bags would each have to be used more than 4,000 times before they offset any pollution. Most consumer solutions are scams in similar ways. Corporate regulation is really the only solution. Yeah. I remember once I was in the shower and I started I was looking at a face wash that I just bought, and I had spent so much energy thinking I needed a face wash that I felt like had simple ingredients because my skin's very sensitive, but I wanted it to have salicylic acid in it, but I also wanted it to be cruelty free and fragrance free, and I also wanted it to be something that was sustainable, something I could buy over and over again and not be breaking the bank. I finally found a face wash, and then I'm in the shower and I'm looking at it and I'm reading the back because it's a new product, and I'm like, where's the recycling label? Where the fuck is the recycling label? And then I started freaking out and I was like, I bought single-use plastic and I didn't know. And I was like, and at that moment I was like, as a consumer, this is fucking exhausting. But then I spoke to my best friend who is the chief of staff of a New York State council member. And she was like, I gotta be honest with you, there's microplastics in the water, babe. The one bottle, it's not gonna make it. Any of the plastic in your house doesn't matter.
Oh, I can top that. I believe the last number is that 80% of that which you try to recycle ends up in the landfill anyway, because all the the recycling we have very few of them compared to trash centers. So it's mostly just an extra fee that the city gets for giving you a second bin, because otherwise they cannot actually process the amount that people give, and it just goes to the dump. It's a wild and crazy thing.
Horrible.
Michael Thoney says, source greenest grocery bag, Hank Green SciShow on YouTube. Sources are in the video details. That's cool.
Oh,
good job sourcing your thing there. This is from, this is you.
£5 from Jessica Doodoo McButtface for Jimmy to read. Oh, for you to read.
Oh. I'm in charge of the line, and as a respected individual with authority, Espion sucks. Love you soon. # love you soon. The podcast has a line. I don't think Espion sucks, but Umbreon is my favorite anyway. So whatever, it happens.
Do you know that Espion sucks is like a thing? Do you know about this? Arden was talking about how she loves Espion, and now it's become like a whole thing about a whole battle.
Umbreon's my favorite, probably followed by, well, no, I'd go Umbreon, Glaceon, Leafeon, then Espion, even though Psychic is my favorite typing, but I just felt like that one was kind of boring. No offense, Arden. Then I would probably do Sylveon and then Flareon, Jolteon, and Vaporeon dead last. I think it's weird to have lizard, like they're all furry, beautiful, like cute things you'd want to cuddle, except for this one that's covered in fish scales. Like it's cute, but I'm going to get slimed up. Luthien says Vaporeon so cute, only to look at. You wouldn't want to snuggle it. You're going to let that in the bed. It's all squishy and stuff. Ugh. It'd be all squishy.
Oh my God. That's really funny.
Yeah.
Squawk.
All right, I'll let you have this one since that one got taken from you.
Okay. $9.99 from I Am the Darkness, dating back to the Revolutionary War. Our government has never taken care of our vets. They should never have to fight for their benefits. Correct.
Yeah.
All of it's so predatory.
We have to keep the
fucking soup to nuts.
We have to keep capitalism and poor people alive. Otherwise, who will staff our militaries?
Right.
This was from earlier when I was saying the thing about it kind of looking like a Mormon temple. Untitled Final V2. This version says, Jimmy gets it. That's funny.
That's so funny. Okay, wait. I need to look up what a Mormon temple looks like and compare. $10 from Moonstar. I tried to get through to my parents that the big beautiful bill is awful. It went about as well as when I tried to get them to understand why I think, the Bible, God is evil. Trump equals good as God equals good. Yeah, that's the problem. And that's the problem. And they also, have you seen this? The podcast, The Necessary Conversation? Did we talk about this?
I think so.
It's a podcast of like they're adults, but they're these brother and sister interviewing their parents who are like huge MAGA people.
Oh yeah. I see a lot of their clips on it, and the dad is getting more and more insufferable as time goes. I don't know if it means he's
evil.
more comfortable saying more, and now he's just being shitty to his kids too. It's not just like shitty about his things, but he'll literally just like shit on his kids, and I'm literally like, bro, you are fucking nothing.
You're not like you are literally nothing.
There's no thing you are better at in the entire world than me at. Let's talk, bro. Like you fucking. But
even like his son, it gives him so much grace, and I'm sure it's because his son knows that his dad is going to say something horrific, and that does the thing that they want it to do for the podcast. But that podcast, I think, is interesting to see for people who don't understand or are not regularly exposed to people who are like so in the Trump sphere that they like literally cannot see past their nose in it.
Yeah.
Like it's a really good little like bite-sized conversations if you're watching the clips to see like how the level of delusion that people really truly earnestly have. It's crazy.
Well, now I don't know what to believe because Untitled Final V2 said not Mormon temple, just a generic fork on a generic counter. But I thought you were saying that I get it when I was saying that that's what it looks like, but it isn't that.
Oh, I see. I understand why you think that. That's really funny. That's really funny, actually.
Yeah.
$9.99 from Daniel. When I was 14, I was mostly concerned with video games and friends' moms. My parents assured me Obama was the Antichrist, and that was good enough for me. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like Hayden could be listening to his parents, he could be listening to his friends, but what he chose to do was to find a show that was going to present him the opposite and then bring his opinion and then be open and honest about when he didn't know things and when he was learning. Hayden's going to be fine. Yeah. Hayden's going to be a host on the line one day.
Well, Somebody in the comments this week was like, I wonder if Jimmy will be a host on the one that called in, that always calls in, because I guess he's deconstructing. And I'm like, I'm glad he's deconstructing. There are you have to do more than that to Jimmy can be tough to get a word in edgewise. Ironic coming from me, I know. But anyway, it's he's a fun guy though. All right, well, I was mostly at 14 concerned with figuring out where I was going to secretly masturbate because I was Mormon and you couldn't just do that, you know. It was not just allowed. So that's how
I was concerned about how I was going to get tickets to Warped Tour and Bamboozle when I was 14. That's what I was concerned about.
Oh, that's a very much our generation thing. I don't think are the current generations going. Luthien, y'all going? Are the you know more about Gen Z than me?
Youths.
A Warped Tour just started back up. Okay. There we go. Luthien's a little younger than me.
I like that Luthien's like got a pulse on the youths.
Yeah. Yeah. You know,
that's great.
Yesterday, she was like, do I look like a grandma? She asked me that like 19 times. I was like, babe, we all do. We all get old. It's all good. I didn't really say that. She didn't look anything like a grandma. Was that yesterday or the day before? It was the way she had her hair tied and her glasses and stuff. But yeah.
I don't want to give any information about what she looks like, but
so hot.
Couldn't look less than like a grandma.
Like hot as fucking. Okay, well that first of all, if you say couldn't look less like a grandma, now it makes it sound like you're saying I'm dating a toddler because that would be less. No. That would be less.
She's like a beautiful, age appropriate young
just
person.
Gorgeous. Yeah. Just
trying to be vague and also
oh my god, I'm
honest.
Sexually harassing the producer. All right.
Oh boy.
Don't tell anybody. That's it. That's the show. That's Cuz I Wanna. Well, sorry.
Watch Chewed Gum on Tuesday. Okay.
I hear you. Oh, I thought that would do.
They do?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, bye.
The thing didn't play right. Okay, here we go.
Love you soon. Bye.
Love you soon. Whoop. Oh shit! I didn't put it over there. This was supposed to be doing that over there.
Oh my god.
I got it. Abrupt cutoff.